I'm he, the quintessential American, James David Righteous Rebel Manning. How's everybody doing on this 10th day of June in the era of the tribulation and the period of the coronavirus, where the number of deaths in America is at presently 112,000 people have died in the US of A, and the prognosticators are saying by the 4th of August that at least 146,000 plus will have succumbed or died or killed by the coronavirus. And on this past Sunday was the largest day of a registered case, 136,000 globally. So we'll see how all that going. Today is also day 37 of the writing of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 7 through 13. And we've got a large number of things that we want to discuss with you today. We want to go ahead and enlarge on a subject matter that we were dealing with a day or so ago. And the subject matter today, of course, is that we want to report on, in light of all the other things that are going on that's consistent with that, is that when Negroes were most successful. And that's going to be our launch pad today. But as we get launched today with that title, When Negroes Were Most Successful, let me take the time now to, first of all, apologize and also to say thank you to the Urban Dictionary, to the editor of the Urban Dictionary and the staff there at the Urban Dictionary for going ahead and, first of all, going back several years ago, of including a statement that was coined by yours truly, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, that Obama was a long-legged Mac Daddy, and I'm sure that probably a lot of their readers would not agree with that, but it was a term that needed to be memorialized in our planetary history, the long-legged Mac Daddy, and so they memorialized it in the Urban Dictionary, and it's there to stay forever. And then after that, they went ahead and memorialized another statement that God gave to me that I uttered. And that statement was the pinch-nosed Negro. Now, the pinch-nosed Negro is an escalated, if you will, version of the house Negro. But he has taken his house Negro and worship of the white Japheth race to a level where he tries to talk like him. He wants to sound like him. He doesn't want to sound like a Negro anymore, so he pinches his nose, so his voice is more like that of the Japheth than a Negro. And they memorialized that as well. Thank you, Urban Dictionary. And I was lamenting just on yesterday, without having checked the records, that stating that Tribulation Trump, the title of the fact that God has coined that phrase through me as well, is equally as important as a long-legged Mac Daddy. And I was getting ready to lambaste the Urban Dictionary editorial staff for not including that as a historical fact to be memorialized through all of eternity, that Tribulation Trump, Donald John Trump, that God has named him Tribulation Trump, and the trigger of the tribulation. And lo and behold, our engineers discovered by doing a little bit of research quickly, even while I was pontificating, that they actually had done that did it as early as 2018. So I bitterly wish to respectfully apologize for accusing them of not of being biased. They got Obama, but they didn't get Trump. And so I thank them for that, having done that. And I want all of the Outlaw worldwide members to celebrate that we've got 3 and now a 4th register in the dictionary, that whatever else my life has been, that the contributions that I've made to humanity. So the long-legged Mac Daddy, the pinch-nosed Negro, Tribulation Trump has been memorialized in one of the world's great scholastics. Now, and then my engineer did further research and discovered another phrase that I had coined called the orange-haired orangutan. That's who I referred to Tribulation Trump as, because of his orange hair and the orange paint he puts on his face. And he looks like and walks like an orangutan. And so they went ahead and did this. So I got 4 entries. I can never believe it. I'd like to wake up Mama Neal and tell her your grandson has been memorialized 4 times in the dictionary. That's a pretty tall order. So the ATLAH Church and ATLAH family members, we want to celebrate that God's allowed us to be that influential in modern day present events. Having said that, I want to read a tweet that and so thank you, Urban Dictionary and staff. I want to read a couple of tweets, if you don't mind, before we get to the point where the teaching of today that I find most significant. You ought to text somebody, tweet somebody, tell them that, the good Dr. Manning has a message for them today in light of all the things that are going on with respect to the death of George Floyd. And I posted this up a couple of days ago, and I sent this tweet directly to Black Lives Matter. And that's what it says. To Black Lives Matter, period, if Malcolm, Mandela, and Martin were alive, you would call them hate preachers because they said LGBTQ is an abomination, found in Leviticus chapter 20, verse 13. To Black Lives Matter, all your marching is backwards, not forward, wretched, not righteous. You are marching into darkness. Black Lives Matter. And I didn't just stop there, but there's an article in the 1964 version of Ebony magazine where Dr. King said that homosexuality was a psychological disorder. And I wrote yet another tweet that I want to post up to all ears that will listen. And this tweet was this: absolutely nobody loves the Hamite, that's the black man, more than I. I am willing to die that he, the black man, Hamite, might live. He, the black man, raises most hell against an unjust system. But from Dr. King to Farrakhan to Obama to George Floyd, he still can't raise himself or his self-worth. And nothing has been said that's more true than that. He knows how to raise hell, but he doesn't know how to raise himself or his community. And yet one more, and I promise not to inflict myself upon you any further. And that is this. Jesus will not change the prophecy of the tribulation. And this tweet was sent out in light of everybody calling for change. Don't you remember that Obama was the change presidency? Change. 8 years of fecklessness, indecision, absolute nothing that Obama did. And were I Obama, I would probably commit suicide. Because after 8 years, to see the groundswell of a planetary call for change, saying to him, you did nothing. That's why George Floyd was lynched. You did nothing. We got to get out in the street and get the change. We gave you the highest office, the most powerful office on the planet, Obama, to change. And you did nothing. Now we're in the streets, one and all, black and white, Jew and Gentile, because you brought no change, Obama. And he needs to feel terribly embarrassed, and all of his supporters need to run like rats from a sinking ship. But I can tell you this, Jesus will not change the prophecy of the tribulation. If you haven't read it, it's in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 24, verse 1 and following. Satan cannot change his evil. Trump a degenerate now, Trump a degenerate forever. Wall Street will rob the poor. White racism don't ever change. White privilege is here to stay. House Negroes don't want change. Change ain't coming. All that talk at George Floyd's funeral, all that talk about change, all that Black Lives Matter talk about change ain't coming. If Obama couldn't get it with the White House, if Obama couldn't bring change, y'all ain't gonna get it either. It ain't coming. And not only that, but Jesus ain't gonna change the prophecy of destruction. And you ain't gonna change the morality. Negroes don't want change. Eddie Glide don't want change. Cordell West don't want change. Al Sharpton don't want change. If y'all stop shooting Black boys in the street, Al Sharpton will be out of business. MSNBC will fire him. But this Crump boy, he'll be out of job. They don't want no change. They want the status quo. In fact, Al Sharpton wants you to shoot more black folk. He can make more money, ride on more private jets. They don't want no change. You want Tyler Perry and Robert Smith and all them. They want to see more killings. They don't want you to stop shooting. Whatever y'all police do, Al Sharpton and Ben Crump and Cornel West and all the rest of them, Don Lemon and all of them, Van Jones, they don't want change. Don't y'all stop shooting. They lose their importance. They have no other contribution other than be ambulance chasers and getting paid big money every time y'all police somebody, shoot somebody black. They ain't looking for no, these house Negroes don't want no change. No, that's why Obama didn't bring it. He don't want no change either. So having said that, let me talk to you about a period when Negroes were most successful, and I'm going to be a little bit, professorial today in my process, because I want to take you back to the period of the Industrial Revolution, and I'm going to bring up a number of people. One in particular, a man that was born a slave and another born right on the cusp of slavery, to talk about a time when Negroes were most successful and they gave birth to Black Wall Street in Oklahoma and Rosewood in Florida. And then I want you to sit down peacefully and consider, do we have anything like that today, that we have digressed, that we have gone backwards from that period? But during the period of I want to talk to you about the period of Marcus Garvey and the universal Negro improvement movement across America, but particularly here in New York. And I'd like to talk to you also about Booker T. Washington and the Tuskegee Institute, also a major movement. And both of these men were extraordinary leaders during the period of the Negroes when Negroes were Negroes. They both lived in the period of the Industrial Revolution that got started in the late 19th century, and processed right in through the 20th century. But it was in the period of the late 19th century that Marcus Garvey and Booker T. Washington were born. Booker T. Washington was born a slave 10 years before slavery ended. And we'll get to that in a bit more detail in some of the other teachings that are going to come forward. But these were the best, most prosperous days that the Negro has ever had, or unless ATLAH comes and y'all wake up, will ever have. And let me just kind of set the stage for this, of the tremendous life and leadership of Booker T. Washington, who consulted with a large number of presidents, whether it was Calvin Coolidge or Woodrow Wilson or others, and a great philanthropist, and one who was for, in a large degree, segregation, who understood that process. His counterpart, of course, Marcus Garvey, would have been against segregation, or was for it. And let me explain that a little bit differently, because the nuances here a little bit, they take a little time for you to understand both of their positions on segregation, but they were both major leaders. Ultimately, Marcus Garvey, who had been convicted by some spies that they had taken into his office and into his organization of the Universal Negro Improvement Movement, set him up, and he was convicted on mail fraud and sent to prison for a couple of years, later pardoned by Calvin Coolidge and sent back to Jamaica. And I want to remind all the members of the ATLAH Church, and especially all the school children, and I elder the floor, I need you to start holding classes, as I did several years ago, in Marcus Garvey Park. We are, to all y'all listeners who've never been to New York and never been to our church, we are less than a stone's throw. We are 40 to 100 steps away from Marcus Garvey Park. In fact, if you travel east, I'm sitting on 123rd Street facing south with my north. What you see behind me is the back that's the north side of Lenox Avenue. Well, if you traveled east to, I'm sorry, if you travel east to just one, the one block is Marcus Garvey Park. So I want to say to all the members of the ATLAH World Missionary Church to be encouraged, and to all the children in Elder Florida, you got to start holding classes in Marcus Garvey Park. Because to be encouraged, to think for this just a second, Elder, that God has put us this close to Marcus Garvey, put us this close to his park, put us this close to his great parades on Lenox Avenue, put us this close to Father Divine, and then put us in Father Divine's building. That's no coincidence. That you got to see that God, the hand of God has been in this, Mother One, that God's hand has been in this for years. Mother Shekinah, God's hand has been in this for years. He's put us in Marcus Garvey Park, in Father Divine's building, in the heart, and then giving us the understanding. So today's teaching is going to be very important. I want to ask Esther Butler and Marsha Carpenter Hodges to please pay special attention and take special notes of that which we're going to teach today, when Negroes were most successful. And so we want to look at that. So let me set this up by saying this. Booker T. Washington was born a slave. I think he was born in 1856. Slavery ended in 1865. So he's 10 years. He's born a slave. I might want to note, without seeming proud, that my grandfather, Charlie Patterson, the first person I ever saw die in the world, it was baffling to me that my grandfather, Charlie Patterson, died. Grandpa Charlie, his wife was named Sarah. We called her Ma Sarah, and we called him Grandpa Charlie. Grandpa Charlie died, but before he died, I used to walk across the field. He had a big, he worked a big field, a big farm on the plantation there in North Carolina, between Lumberton, near Bowie and Philadelphia's and Red Springs and Pantherford. He was in that little enclave of little small towns. And he had a big piece of land that the white man had him work. And he had 17 children, Grandpa Charlie. And he was born a slave. And I used to hold his hand as a little boy. I used to walk across the field with him. He had big hands. At least I thought they were big because I was a young boy. I think I was 4 or 5 years old when he died. And they put his casket, years ago, they used to put the casket of the deceased in the living room of the house. It wasn't in the funeral home of the church. And his casket was in and we used to go to bed, go to sleep. His casket, I go in there and look at that Grandpa Charlie, dead as a doorknob. Anyway, Booker T. Washington was born a slave. I thought I'd put that in because some of the young children might know that's how close I am to slavery. I'm a bit aged, and so anyway, Booker T. Washington was born a slave, but raised himself up. And he became a great educator, an orator, and a developer of a political system. But he was born, Booker T. Washington's rise to power was a rise to power. Now, Sabbath, pay very careful attention to this. Booker T. Washington's rise to prominence and power in establishing Tuskegee Institute, and George Washington Carver, one of his great professors. Booker T. Washington rose to power during the time of the great Industrial Revolution. From the late 19th century, we're talking 1885 up until 1920, was the great Industrial Revolution, where wealth in America was going off the charts. Yet the Vanderbilts made their money during the great Industrial Revolution. The Carnegies made their money. The Mellons made their money. Henry Ford and the Ford Assembly Line, Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan, all of these very prominent and very powerful old money names that we now see still in America, still riding the crest of money, got their start in the period of the great Industrial Revolution. Now, Theodore Roosevelt, who was the president at the very turn of the 19th century, of the 20th century rather, 19th and the 20th century, was later labeled as one who was a trust buster, because during those periods of time, these Rockefeller oil, you couldn't buy any oil to put oil in a lamp or a car or anything else unless you paid Rockefeller some money. So later the conglomerate of all the oil, and then of course the way that was shipped by the Vanderbilts on the rail stations, transported from California to New York, was all through the Rockefeller auspices of the Vanderbilts. And so they had a thing going on where nobody else could get into the market, like pretty much what Bill Gates did with the Microsoft software. But Theodore Roosevelt busted up what is known as, he was called a trust buster. He broke up all these mega organizations, so Rockefeller Oil then became Standard Oil. That's a little bit of history. But in the same time, while all this wealth was being generated on the Japheth side, people like Marcus Garvey and Booker T. Washington was generating wealth and power on the Hamite side. It was, I would give my, I don't know if I give up my seat and my time with Elizabeth, but I would want to go back to that period and watch these two men compete with Rockefeller, compete with Vanderbilt, compete with Carnegie and the Mellons, compete with Henry Ford, and watch them build a development that is an enclave that is separated from the Japheth, but strictly for blacks. Marcus Garvey's movement was called the Universal Negro Improvement Movement. The UNIA is what it was called, that he founded. And it became a very powerful organization at the turn of the 19th and the 20th century. And Marcus Garvey became an extraordinary person in Harlem. Most of the businesses, and he gave birth to the great Harlem Renaissance, where Harlem really came alive, and people came moving up here from down in around Hell's Kitchen. And of course, there was a large enclave of blacks that lived in the Central Park region. Before Central Park was fully developed as Central Park, they got pushed out of the park and moved also up to Harlem. But it was also in that period that Rosewood was inspired to become a major enclave of black entrepreneurship, where blacks own their banks, their businesses, they changed their money. In Rosewood, in the deep south of Florida, in Ponce de Leon, the same period of Sabbath during the Marcus Garvey, Booker T. Washington, also was built Black Wall Street. At the turn of the century, Black Wall Street was destroyed in the 1920s. But they had been building that society for 30 years. So Black Wall Street doesn't get a lot of publicity, neither does Rosewood, mainly because it is a threat and it might correspond to ATLAH. When that man, Dr. Hartfield, when that man looked in my eyes down there 2 years ago at the New York City Museum History Fair and knew I was from ATLAH and I was promoting Rosewood, I didn't go to Black Wall Street. I figured that would be too much for them. And he looked in my eyes and I could see him saying, we can't let this win, because this may go national. If you win here locally, you go to the state may give it national, you go to national, and Negroes everywhere will see that the child of Rosewood, the child that will be birthed from Wall Street, is now alive in ATLAH. And they did not want that to happen. Dr. Hartfield, they did not want that to happen. But in the process, Rosewood and Dr. Leah and Black Wall Street in Oklahoma were all products of the great industrial revolution. But out of that emerged some enormous, larger than life Negro Hamite men. One was Marcus Garvey and the other was Booker T. Washington. I should have worn my Booker T. Washington shield today. And they became very prominent. Now, there was a spoiler in the midst of this, a pinch-nosed Negro named W.E.B. Du Bois. I'm not going to talk about him right now. But these three men were the most prominent of the Negro men in that area of the great industrial revolution. And when you understand, here, Booker T. Washington, if I can just kind of look at him for just a moment, of course, was born a slave. And Marcus Garvey was born in Jamaica. And the sad thing, and Elder Paul McFarquhar and Elder Emerald, you Jamaican boys, the sad thing about it is that Marcus Garvey had been so scarcely ill-treated by the very people he fed and made millionaires here in Harlem, owning their own cleaners, their own restaurants, their own bars, Wilt Small's Parrot, all these institutions that was so much a part of the Harlem Renaissance got their start with banking principles and money that Marcus Garvey showed them how to, and then they turned on him like a bunch of fierce dogs. And one of the persons within him reported to the FBI, to the federal, not there, the Revenue Service, that he had sold some stock. He was trying to buy the ships to take Negroes back to Africa on a shipping corporation called the Black Star Line. Now, you need to know also the term black is beautiful didn't come from the 1960s. It didn't come from Stokely Carmichael. It didn't come from Fannie Lou Hamer. It didn't come from Dr. King. The term black is beautiful was coined by Marcus Garvey, but he became very powerful. Marcus Garvey not only owned all the businesses you see up and down Lenox Avenue, every store, all the businesses you saw up and down 125th Street, 7th Avenue, 135th Street, 136th Street were owned by Negroes. And the money that Marcus Garvey was bringing in, not to his organization, but teaching people how to bring in money, the money that he was bringing in was a threat to the well-being of the social. I mean, he was rivaling Carnegie and the Mellons and J.P. Morgan. Marcus Garvey was a bad man, a jammer in terms of economic development. The same principle when men were leaders in their homes. They didn't run off and create a welfare state for their children to be raised by the welfare system. They did not run off and leave their wives. They did not leave their properties without their own property. The same thing. I mean, you with Marcus Garvey would think when he hears James David Manning that he says, well, I must be a son of Marcus Garvey. I must be his boy. And then when we look at the ATLAH High School, the Great Tomorrow's Elementary School, Booker T. Washington will look over and say, that must be my son. Maybe I had a son, he's my grandson, and I don't know it. Because it's the exact same principle, not turning to the right, to the left, that both Marcus Garvey and Booker T. Washington taught. It's taught right here now in this cathedral, the ATLAH World Missionary Church, right here, a block away from Marcus Garvey Park. It is absolutely, it's a blessing from God to be a part of this cathedral, to be a part of what is happening here, and to see the history of what happened. Now, Marcus Garvey was later sold out by somebody in his organization. That's how I have to watch very carefully everybody in this organization, because the Japheth boy roll up on me and try to get, and I don't mean to keep harping on this and harping on this and harping on this, but, we had some members of our congregation try to betray me. They thought they were honoring Obama. They thought that they were doing Obama a service by getting rid of me. I'm still here, and Obama's nowhere. I think the biggest insult to any man I've seen in the century was the insult of Black Lives Matter marching in the street, and literally tens of thousands of people in every city, every major city and bodunk in America marching saying we need change because Obama didn't deliver it. If I were Obama, I'd go commit suicide. Because they're saying we need change. Obama had 8 years in the power of the presidency and didn't deliver it. We're going to get it ourselves. We're out in the street looking for it because we couldn't get it from the black man. Obama, so-called black man, in the White House. Where I am, I'd commit suicide. Because nothing is more resonant to the fact of a failure that he was. But Marcus Garvey had some people in his organization who sold him out. And they said, I don't know how true it is, they said that Marcus Garvey was selling stock because he's buying up all these major ships. There was a White Star Line that the Titanic belonged to and several other major fun cruise ships from England to America. There was a White Star Line. Marcus Garvey set up what was known as the Black Star Line and then coined the phrase black is beautiful. This is what we're talking about, the 1912, 1914, 1915. But in order to raise money, he didn't have the Joseph Zaffnap Pioneer Storehouse Fund. He raised money. He sold stock in the Black Star Line. People buy stock, but the man was a scholar. I don't think he had a high school education, Marcus Garvey. He was a scholar. Unlike people like Jay-Z and all these other people running around here making money, cussing out black women, this man was a businessman. Just like the Mellons and the Vanderbilts and the Carnegie set up their institutions and the railroads and bought up the Park Avenues and bought up the hotels and bought up the oil wells, hell, Marcus Garvey was out there buying up ships to sell black folk back to Africa en masse. There was a couple of things going on. And so as a result of that, so now let me remind you now, we're looking at what's happening with the death of George Floyd. We're looking at all these misguided people. We're looking at Black Lives Matter. We're looking at people who are going backwards. And by the way, someone says that to go back to that period of time when Negroes were most successful would be to go back. No, it will be returning to justice. It will be returning to truth. It will be returning to prosperity. We need to get rid of these yo-yos like T.D. Jakes. We need to get rid of Al Sharpton needs to go. Ben Crump needs to go. Obama, they are despots. They are people that have destroyed. Don't you see? All you got to do is study your history of the power of the Booker T. Washington. I'll even let you study W.E.B. Du Bois. And you would look, there ain't no way you would ever attend a meeting. Ain't no way you would have Al Sharpton preach the funeral for a jackass. Ain't no way you let that slick-haired, lying CI7 snitch called Al Sharpton anywhere near a church altar. If you knew your history as a black man, there ain't no way. There ain't no way you let him, or Obama, or Ben Crump, or Van Jones, or Eddie Glide, or Cornel West, or any of them. They're all sellouts. I mean, the house Negroes of the Gone with the Wind of Uncle Tom's Cabin would spit on Al Sharpton. Y'all ain't no show enough house Negroes. At least the house Negro used to get some pass some meat out the window to the field Negro. Y'all keep it all for yourself. Oh, it's just sick. And they won't let me out. So the reason I started out there apologizing to the Urban Dictionary, because they want to do everything they possibly can to stop this truth. I'm telling you a truth that will rival Henry Ford, John D. Rockefeller, the Mellons, the Carnegies, the Marcus Garvey, and the Booker T. Washington. I'm preaching that same truth right now. And your parents and your children and your family and your friends talking about I ain't a black man. I mean, have you ever seen anything as crazy as these people? Have you ever seen anything as sick as they are? Black Wall Street, right? Wasn't a fluke. Listen, the great industrial revolution, plus most of these folk, even these folk like these, and now I see more and more they're bringing up these Harvard professors with black faces and now try to pontificate about what ought to happen, how to stop police brutality, how to find equality after they didn't get it with a black president. They got 40 black mayors of every black city, of every major city from Atlanta to San Francisco to Dallas to Houston to Washington to Baltimore to Chicago, and they still are bellyaching and complaining and bitching and moaning about we need equality. When they got all these black mayors, got a black president, got black police chief, and they're still bitching and moaning, and their children are doing worse. The neighborhoods are more crime riddled now, and more food stamp laced, and more poverty and rat and roaches now in every one of these cities where you got a black man got more rats and roaches now than it did when it had a white man. Hell, you'd be better off with George Wallace than you would be with Keisha Lance Bottoms. I mean, it is ridiculous. I wonder how I keep my sanity looking at these fools. And so here, I apologize to Urban Dictionary. Why? I apologize because they let my word get out. They actually put it out. They might try to take it out. Might try to censor me, but they let my word get out. Because this one need to get out. And I don't think that I talk to a lot of people all the time. I don't think people know anything about the great industrial revolution. And, Booker T. Washington and my grandpa Charlie were born in the same period. They were born in the same breath, my grandpa Charlie. I walked with Grandpa Charlie. You know what Booker T. Washington made him credible down in Alabama in Tuskegee Institute that he set up? His principle was this. All right, I'm going to teach you science and chemistry and math and English. We're going to teach you all of those skills. And during those years, barefoot black children wanted to learn. They didn't come to school talking about no basketball. They didn't come to school talking about the latest rap artist. They didn't come to school talking about Beyonce. They wanted to learn. Everybody wanted, all black, when I was in school, all black children wanted to sit in the front of the class. We wanted to learn. We wanted to learn. All of us, we wanted to learn. Never anybody slept in the class. Never in the school I went to. We wanted to learn. But he said also you need to know a trade. And so he would take them out. He would take them out to the fields, teach them how to plant potatoes, how to harvest crops, how to understand the process. And then God blessed him with a genius called George Washington Carver, who did more with a peanut than anybody could ever think. He was a great scientist, a great botanist. George Washington Carver was a student of Booker T. Washington, right? Everybody wanted to learn. Everybody wanted to, and that's how it was. I grew up under that tradition. I don't know this tradition. We have a captain in our church, El Capitan Farr. His boy is a genius. His son, his name is Jeremiah. I call him philosophical from time to time. And he's multi-talented. He's brilliant with the sciences, but he's also brilliant with music. And music is very appealing to him. So he came to me the other day, and he said he wanted to change his major to music, right? I mean, you're doing a good me. There is music. I said, okay. I thought he had talked to his father about it, and his mama. And he just coming to me to tell me, but I found out he hadn't talked to his father and his mother about it. But, but his father said, no, you can get a trade. You're going to learn, you can do all the music you want, but you're going to learn, because he first started out, he got enrolled in college because he wanted to become a medical professional, encephalopathy, if you will, specialist. So his father came to me the other day and said, what's up? I said, well, what's up? What's up about what? He said, Jeremiah told me he wants to be a musician. He said, no. I said, no, that boy need to learn a trade and he can play all the music he wants. And that was a principle of Booker T. Washington. The Booker T. Washington that you would spend, 3.5 months to 4 months in the classroom and 3.5 months to 4 months in the field. You actually, you got a grade on how to pick cotton. You got a grade on how to make a potato hill with straw and dirt, how to preserve sweet potatoes for 2 years without them doing what we call cold herd. You got a grade for that. You got a grade for learning how to plant tobacco peanuts. You got a grade for that, as well as you got a grade for chemistry. I mean, you had Booker T, and it was an ingenious institute, Tuskegee. My aunt, Nancy Ann Jordan, graduated with a master's degree from Tuskegee. But they went down there and they started what they're doing now here in New York City with Columbia University. They went down there and Tuskegee Institute, after Booker T. Washington had died and some of his leaders weren't as committed to the cause as he, and they paid those professors down there and the principal down there to let them do some experiment on black men with syphilis and gonorrhea and some other diseases. And that's what Tuskegee is known for now. But the reputation has been marred. But it was a great school. And we've modeled ATLAH, Great Tomorrow's Elementary School and ATLAH High School after the Tuskegee Principal and Institute. And by the way, Elder LaFleur, we are going to have a graduation, but I have to tell you that we got to look carefully now because we are affording the parents who don't belong to our church, we're doing a great service to their children, and I don't know if they fully recognize it. So Booker T. Washington, Marcus Garvey, these were two great giants. And by the way, they were not small people. Both of them, Booker T. Washington was in the White House quite often. And he was advisor to a lot of presidents. And Booker T. Washington said at the time, let discrimination, let the white folk continue to discriminate. Let's not be so quick to want to integrate. You didn't find Negroes wanting to integrate until this pinch-nosed Negro named W.E. Du Bois comes along. He graduates from Harvard, right? He's got a Harvard degree, like Obama, the same damn fools. He got a degree from Harvard. They gave W.E. Du Bois a PhD from Harvard. They gave Obama a law degree from Harvard, right? Same thing. It's the same setup. The same setup. This pinch-nosed Negro, W.E. Du Bois, comes back and he starts talking about integration, right? Now, W.E. Du Bois is the founder of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. So here we got two tracks now. We got the Universal Negro Improvement Corporation, where Harlem was awash with black money. Black Wall Street in Oklahoma was awash with black political power. People living good lives. Rosewood, Florida was awash. Here comes the Japheth man takes this pinch-nosed Negro, W.E.B. Du Bois, sends him to Harvard, gives him a PhD, and he comes back and he tears down, he talks down Marcus Garvey like he's a dog. He talks down Booker T. Washington like they're dogs, that they allow white man to run roughshod on. They accept segregation. They accept discrimination. And then Booker T. Washington was friends with a lot of white folk. Booker T. Washington made many train trips to New York, to Massachusetts, and came and spoke at fundraising dinners, and people raised money and said he gave that money, took a bag of money back down there to Tuskegee to help pay the tuition for those barefoot school children down there in Tuskegee Institute. And here comes Obama. Here comes Al Sharpton. Here comes the NAACP. Here it comes. Now, I'm going to wrap this up right now, but I have to tell you as well that Booker T. Washington, Booker T. Washington, really, they're both Booker T. Washington and the Marcus Garvey had the principle of self-reliance, racial pride. Be proud that you're black. Remember, it was Marcus Garvey that coined the phrase "black is beautiful," not Fannie Lou Hamer. And they racial pride and self-reliance, economic independence. I mean, we're talking back in we're talking about in 1899 and 1901 and 1902, talking about economic independence from the white man. And it was successful. Black Wall Street is a mega success. And also what happened here in Harlem, in the Harlem Renaissance, oh man, let me tell you something. Marcus Garvey was the joint. It was. Every business in Harlem. And it was later Elijah Poole who watched Marcus Garvey and his success. The thing that Elijah Poole did that was different from what Marcus Garvey did was Elijah Poole extracted Christianity, which Marcus Garvey was not a big fan of, but Booker T. Washington was, and injected Islam. Now, there was not a lot known about the Islamic religion. I think, really, I mean, we can talk about 9/11, we can talk about, Al-Qaeda and, some of these other religions and talk about the various Muslims now. But really, most white people in America didn't know anything about Islam. Somehow or another, Elijah Poole, who was a Baptist preacher, his father was a Baptist preacher down in Georgia, found out about Islam and the teaching of Muhammad and adopted it as a he meshed the Islamic principle, Islamic religion with the teachings of Booker T. Washington and self-reliance and Marcus Garvey, individual development, and started what was known as the Nation of Islam. And it was uniquely successful. So all these three, now, so Marcus Garvey is really and Booker T. Washington, they're really the father of Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. All that. But so when you look at where we are now, look at what the hell is going on. Look at I watched Al Sharpton yesterday at that funeral, and I watched all them Negroes up in that church acting like stock raving fools. And I watched that Joe Biden up there kissing butt like you ain't never seen kiss black people's butt before, what Joe Biden was doing. Somebody ought to, anyway. I mean, it is, and then, they put that boy George Floyd in a white horse-drawn carriage the way they did Dr. King. What the hell? Where Martin King Jr. or Bernice King, I'd be, well, what the hell is this? Putting George Floyd in a white casket with a white horse and drove him 2 miles to the, what the hell what they doing with George Floyd? Burning them. I'm so glad. Listen, this funeral is over. Now he got his brother testifying before Congress. Testifying to what? Testifying to what? That's George Floyd doing in a white casket, in a white horse-drawn casket. What? This is where these Negroes are now. They are Negroes. They're African Americans, and that's their problem. So maybe I'm cursed with a time when Negroes were successful. Cursed with the great days of Marcus Garvey. And the great marches Marcus Garvey had right here on Lenox Avenue. All the businesses. And when you look at, you go there and talk to these people. Now, you talk to them. You talk to them. You listen to them. And you say, well, we did have a black president. And Pastor Manning, he ain't really for the black man. But wait a minute. Some of y'all who fell in love with Obama and still, when you look at me, you don't understand where, first of all, you were poorly educated. I don't know what schools y'all went to up here in New York or wherever the hell y'all went to school, but you've been poorly educated. You ain't no education. You don't know nothing. Even y'all that went to Harvard don't have an education. You don't have an education. Booker T. Washington said you need to learn from hard knocks, the field. You had to learn in the house and in the field. I know it all. And so you look at where we are today. Al Sharpton. Some preacher stood up yesterday and said Al Sharpton is something on the order, one of the greatest civil rights leaders ever. So what the hell about Dr. King? And Al Sharpton sitting there with his, is Al Sharpton wearing a weave now? I don't want to be petty. Yeah, I don't want to be petty. But it looked like he got a weave in his hair. Is he got a weave? Who's Al Sharpton's beautician? Because you know he got to have a beautician travel with him everywhere he goes. Oh, yeah. I think that boy got a weave now. Look at his hair. I think he's wearing a weave. Look at him. So, many of y'all need to repent. And y'all pray for me. Well, I ain't praying because I'm scared or something. But at the ignorance that I have to face every day. I told Dr. Hartfield, we have got to raise up in the context. And by the way, you ought to just study the great Industrial Revolution. I found it to be an extraordinary time for white folk, the Industrial Revolution. The thing that made Henry Ford so powerful was that he figured out how to make automobiles on the assembly line. And the assembly line, more than the automobile itself, became the issue. And Ford stopped popping out T-model Fords and A-model Fords just like that. Dodge and Chrysler, the fellow who started the Dodge and Chrysler organization that looked over what Ford was doing, and General Motors. I mean, the automobile industry owes this assembly line production out to Henry Ford. So there was a time when Negroes were very successful, and I come from that era. I've been here 40 years. Bob Jackson down in Tennessee, trying to teach these Negroes. They're not Negroes anymore. I would to God they'd become Negroes. But those of you who thought you've misunderstood me, who don't like what I've said, you think that somehow or another I don't like the black man, that somehow or another I'm this or that or the other. Somehow or another I'm not even a Christian. But just because you're ignorant and you don't know. You're suffering from a lack of knowledge, and the knowledge that has made you crazy. It has made men less than men. It's made you less than a provider. You're not strong. And when you see a strong man like me, you want to take him down. You want to destroy him. You haven't been raised in a tradition of independence and wealth and power. Being able, no matter what color your skin is, no man can trample on you. You say, well, Pastor Man, what about Black Wall Street? They went down there and went ahead and did what they did to them down there in Wall Street. We got something for that too. That was a tragedy. No, it was. And Rosewood as well. But I'm the son of Black Wall Street. I'm the son of Marcus Garvey. And I can tell you all this, Ruth Brown. It's no coincidence that this church is on the corner of Marcus Garvey. It ain't no coincidence. It ain't just happened. No, God He's got a plan. And anybody connects themselves with this church, including the Japheth brother, anybody that connects himself with this church, you're going to be blessed. Unless you're crazy and you raise your hand against, then God will make you suffer in the lake of fire. He'll put you in a special suffering room. Raise your hand against this house. No, it ain't no coincidence that we're here in Father Divine's building. It ain't no coincidence. No, sir, Bob. No, sir. Mm-mm. So I wanted to say that I'll pick this subject up again at another time when we get an opportunity to be able to do so. But I want to remind everybody, don't take off your mask. I know they're talking about the coronavirus is over with now and the summer is here and this stuff. Don't take off your mask. I will tell you when to take it off. But I'm at the mindset right now, in case you don't hear from me again, don't take off your mask until January 2021, if you live to that. I don't know if we're going to make it through the November election without a major war. But don't get out there and start, flitting around and by the way, if y'all got family members that are not a member of this church and you always is still entertaining them, then you come around me, I don't want you bringing that sickness, that disease, not only the coronavirus on me, but I don't want that sickness, that African-American, if you will, black man disease of poverty and craziness. I don't want that either. But the rest of y'all, we're going to make it. No, God is with us. We're going to make it. So give me an opportunity to educate. Give me an opportunity to get up here every day and educate. We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. We're gonna make Marcus Garvey and Booker T. Washington proud. So don't take off your mask. All right, that's the first thing. And thing number two, I think, is that we want to thank all of you that are now going ahead now and decide you're gonna follow us. You're gonna join our church, join our ministry. Okay, fine, that's good. Praise Almighty God. Thank all of you who've been listening for some time. You're gonna make a commitment to be part of the process of what's happening here. That God's allowed you to commit yourself to that process. Praise the Lord. Thank God for you that are going to realize that we need finances. We need finance. We need money. And you need to be blessed. No, you need to be blessed. You need to learn how the blessing that will come to you as a result of becoming a tither, you can't begin to imagine how wonderfully you can begin to eat and live, how blessed your lifestyle can be by tithing. By tithing. How beautiful your lifestyle can be. How come? God says if you bring the tithe and the offering, I'll open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, so much so you won't have room enough to receive. And to pour your tithe into a powerful, fertile ministry like this, God gonna bless you. Eyes have not seen and ears have not heard of the great lifestyle. You've been living poor so long from paycheck to paycheck. You have to live like that no more. You have to live like that. You can live from tithe to the open windows of heaven. Now stop living from paycheck to paycheck and borrowing $20 at the end of the week. No, you can live from the open windows of heaven to blessing, from blessing to blessing. I'm telling you what the tithe will do. I'm 40 years at that. 40 years. I'm 40 years at it. 40 years from blessing to blessing. 40 years from the windows of heaven to blessings of my windows. 40 years, I'm telling you. You say, you just want my money. First of all, you ain't got none, that's the first thing. But you misunderstand. You misunderstand. The tithe is not for me, it's for you. I have to tithe myself. The tithe is to bless you, not me. Never said I'll open up the windows and bless Pastor Man. Said I'll open up the windows and bless you. Haven't you read the scriptures? Being sitting up in these satanic churches where these devils are up in there, they feel they'd rather steal from you rather than bless you with the teaching of the tithe. And so we thank God for the opportunity to have shared today. And now, Lord led us to today is Wednesday. It's Open Rewards Prayer Meeting. Want to get there as soon as we can. See if we can get there tonight and try to have that take place. We are going to be scheduling a graduation of some sort, so I'm not sure exactly what, for this year. It'll be an online, I'm sure. And we want to, Mother Dutchin's funeral is going to be on Tuesday at 10 o'clock, next Tuesday morning, the 16th. She's going to be eulogized at that point. And so we want to apprise and inform everybody about that as well. All right, my friends, I'll be back with more of Marcus Garvey and Booker T. Washington. I'll be back with more. Give me an opportunity to refresh myself. But, you know, when people talk against me, they're really cursing you. Because I got the word of God in my mouth. I'm the Lord's servant. Let's bring up a little bit of Diara right here now.
I know you think that I shouldn't still love you or tell you that. Well, if I didn't say it, well, I still have felt it. And where's the sense in that? I promise I'm not trying to make your life harder or return to where we were. But I will go down with this ship, and I will put my hands up and surrender. There will be no white flag above my door. I'm in love and always will be. I know I left too much mess and destruction to come back again. And I caused nothing but trouble. I understand if you won't talk to me again. And if you live by the rules of it's over, then I'm sure that that makes sense. But I will go down with this ship, and I will put my hands up and surrender. There will be no white flag above my door, 'cause I'm in love and always. And when we meet, which I'm sure we will, all that was there will be there still. And I'll let it pass and hold my tongue, and you will think that I moved on. And I won't put my hands up and surrender. There will be no white flag above my door, 'cause I'm in love and always will. I will go down with this ship, and I won't put my hands up and surrender. There will be no white flag above my door, 'cause I'm in love and always will be. And we will go down with this ship, and we won't put our hands up and surrender. There will be no white flag above our doors, 'cause we're in love and always will be.
It'll make a junkie say Jesus is Lord. I got a word in my mouth. I got a word in my mouth.
Makes my world go
welcome to the Open Rewards prayer meeting tonight on this 10th day of June in the year 2020. In the era of the Great Tribulation and the season of the coronavirus. It's a privilege to be able to be with you tonight. My prayer is that all of us will survive the coronavirus, the earthquakes and wars, the tribulation as it is outlined by Jesus in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 24. Tonight, in the prayer meeting, I want to say some words, statement-wise, that I believe represents answered prayer regarding God's Word, His work in my life over the past 12 years now, but more acutely over the past 40 years, if you will. And I've given a label to tonight's talk as change for the worst has come today. The Chambers Brothers had a very powerful song between 1967 and 1970 and an album called Time. And the most powerful piece out of that selection of music by the extraordinarily talented Chambers Brothers was Time Has Come Today. What I want to express now is that change has come today. You see over the past, this being day 15th of all the marches across most major cities in America, with tens of thousands of young people in the streets, resultant of George Floyd being lynched in Minneapolis, Minnesota, going on a couple of weeks ago now. And that has sparked if you will, a call for change in America, reform of the way police officers are dealt with, a change in racial tensions in America. And it has mushroomed into perhaps some of the largest, most auspicious, if you will, protests consistently and continuously in the history of protesting in America. And so we wanted to make note of the one cry that we hear responded to the lynching of George Floyd that these young people are calling for, is they're calling for change. And I'd like to remind them that this is not an old, new cry that they're crying for. And I wish to also quickly inform them that they're going to get a change, but it's going to be worse. Now, before you disengage, you remember 12 years and some months ago, Barack Hussein Obama, in fact, 13 years ago, started a campaign out in Illinois as a U.S. Senator running for the President of the United States of America. And his slogan was, change that we can believe in. And it was a powerful mantra that was accepted, and it was repeated, and it was rehearsed, and it was printed, it was all over everywhere. Change, change, change is what Obama's campaign was 13, 14 years ago. I think I want to express to everyone as well who see what these young people are doing by their continuous marching across the major cities and some smaller venues in America and then across the planet in Europe and in Paris and in France or in Germany or in England and in Spain and some other, and even in New Zealand. I want to remind you, as impressive as these marches seem, as dense and immense as it seems that the number of participants in this particular march as they are calling for change. And let me parenthetically point out that these people that are marching don't care anything about George Floyd. They don't care about him. That is not, however, it was George Floyd's death or lynching that has brought them to the streets. But I want to remind you, in case you have forgotten, that Obama ran on change as well. And then I'm going to tell you very sadly, but very poignantly, that he changed absolutely nothing. He brought no change, and he had the strongest bully pulpit that anybody can ever have in the annals of history, the White House presidency, and he did nothing with it. He did a couple of things, and I'll tell you about those. But let me remind you, in the event that you are overly impressed, and somehow or another, all these young people who many of them 13 years ago were still in knickers, or they were still with pigtails, or they were still in grade school, and somehow or another they think they've got a way and to deliver the rest of us a message about how the world should go. But Obama 13, 14 years ago had first come with change we can believe in. And so I want to share with you as well the immense crowds. I remember distinctively that when Obama went down to Columbia, South Carolina, and it was in the midst of the campaign, Hillary was still running and running strong in Jim Clyburn's territory down in South Carolina. And in Columbia, Obama was scheduled to meet in one of the largest venues, a hall that would hold, or a stadium that would hold 20,000 people there in Columbia, South Carolina. But Hillary was still running strong because she was the favorite, and Obama was an upstart out of Illinois. And of course, in order to be able to bring attention to Obama, Oprah Winfrey left her couch in Illinois and took a private jet down to Columbia and landed it and took center stage and told people, I will be on the stage endorsing Obama in Columbia, South Carolina. And that stadium in Columbia that housed 20,000 people could not contain all the people that wanted to get in. 20,000 were on the outside who wanted to get in to see Obama, and Oprah Winfrey locked horns together as the new black messiah and the black Madonna. And the great whore of Babylon, as I've also stated. But not just that, not just in case somehow or another you young people think out in the streets that y'all are very impressive and the news people are giving you all this uber coverage, I'll have you know that you pale in comparison to what Obama did, and maybe you were too young years ago to even remember these facts of what happened in all the venues where Obama went down. In Jay-Z down in Miami Gardens or Miami, Florida, Jay-Z appeared with Obama, and another 20,000 people showed up in an outdoor event there, and everywhere he went, the crowds were immense crowds in the 10s and 20s and 30s thousand. But that wasn't all. Obama traveled from America to Dusseldorf, Germany. I don't even know where it's at. I do pronounce it correctly though. And in Dusseldorf, Germany, there in Rhineland town, 250,000 Germans came to hear Obama and watch him strut out on that stage, because even Germany and even Europe had thrown their love and their support behind this young senator from Illinois that claimed to be an African American and that he was running for president. So I want to inform all of you young people in the streets now, you're not who you think you are, and you're not as impressive, and you have not caught up with what Obama. Now, I'm not here to praise Obama. I'm not here to bury him. Quite frankly, I'm here to resurrect many of you, if you'll allow me to have your ear for just a few moments longer, to give you some historical context about where we are. We are in the tribulation. That's where we are. And whatever change you are calling for, I want to remind you, someone a whole lot stronger than y'all marching in New York and Los Angeles and Washington and Atlanta and in Philadelphia and in Houston and in Dallas, that someone far stronger and a crowd and a group far more immense than you people out there in the streets now called for change, and they didn't get a damn thing. They didn't get nothing. They didn't get anything. They got nothing is what they got. They called for change too. So I'm here to inform you there is going to be a change, but the change is going to be for the worse. And though there's no denying it, that Obama was an uber failure of all failures. But I'm here also not to bury Obama. That's not my purpose, and I'm not here to rail against you. I just want to inform you, just in case somehow or another you think that y'all's marching in the street represents some sort of power, and that some sort of change is going to come. It ain't coming. The only thing that's continuing to come is the prophecy that Jesus has spoken about, the tribulation. And so I'm here in many ways to resurrect those of you who might want to hear me now, and it's painful, and as much as you want to reject this, because 13, 14 years ago, America was awash with people talking about change. The streets were awash with people marching and protesting. The stadiums were awash. The television tubes were awash with change we can believe in. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. That the world is going to be different. This police brutality, racial discrimination, poverty, early deaths, brokenness, unemployment of black people is getting ready to end with the first black president. Change has come today, is what the mantra was 13 years ago. And every voice lifted and said, so it be, shall be, except one. You're looking at me. I said, no, no, that's not going to happen. No one's going to be able to. Obama was not going to bring any change. There was nothing he ever said or did that would indicate that he was capable of bringing change. And more importantly, the only change we're going to ever see is from the power of Almighty God. I want to also state to you that Obama hails, at least in terms of his political career, from Chicago, Illinois. And the sad part about all of these people that would make those of y'all marching in Los Angeles, those of y'all marching in New York and in Washington, make y'all look like children's play, because America and the world was awash with Obama. But you know, they're talking about change. During the 8 years of presidency of Obama, now we're talking now, or at least the world is consumed with George Floyd. You know, they put that boy in a horse-drawn carriage yesterday. I mean, they only do that for presidents. Here's a man that you're going to find out when the trial happens that he might not be so honorable when you discover who he really was. But I'll leave that to the trial and the defense lawyers to issue their information of discovery. But I'll have to tell you this, that if you think that Black Lives Matter and somehow or another you should be marching, can I tell you that 3,917 young black people were killed in Chicago, Illinois, black on black crime, and there was not one march to mourn the death. And some of those deaths were grievous. One was a 3-year-old, I think, in the backseat of their mother's car coming out of Cabrini houses or something of that nature. And the other was a beautiful young girl that was playing in the park. A beautiful young girl, 15 years old, shot by a stray bullet. Not one march! Not one march by Black Lives. Black Lives didn't matter. Nearly 4,000 young people that are all black, nappy-head, were killed in Chicago during Obama's presidency in the midst of all this change, and not one march. Not one march, not one march led by Obama, not one march led by Sharpton, not one march led by Ben Crump, not one march led by Ben Jealous, not one march was made to honor the brutal deaths of the nearly 4,000 teenagers and young adults that were killed in Chicago. So I don't know if Black lives really matter. I mean, do Black lives only matter when you're killed by a white police officer? That somehow or another, George Floyd, though his lynching there in Minneapolis in that gutter was horrendous, there's no doubt about that. We won't argue that at all. But I think that does George Floyd's life, is it greater than a 3-year-old sitting comfortably in her mama's back seat of a car, her head gets ripped open by a stray bullet shot by a young black man? Does not that life matter also? Does not that life deserve a march? What a beautiful young girl who was shot down in the park. Does not that life deserve a march? No, because Black Lives Matter only when it's killed by a white person. So I'm here to say to you, the change that's coming is worse than things have been in the past. So all of you protesters out there in the street, I want to say one other thing as well, is that I've noticed this, and I'll state this clearly, that CNN is at war with Tribulation Trump. They don't like him, and I don't blame them. I support them. I'm not going to send them any money, but I support them. They're at war with Tribulation Trump. Their purpose is to bring him down. And I'll tell you this, move all those television cameras away from these young people in Los Angeles, New York, and Washington. Move those television cameras and all that wall-to-wall, 24-hour, 7-day-a-week coverage. You won't see them coming out so red. They love being on television. They love they love to be seen. Many of them out there looking for husbands. And I don't mean to belittle their, you got a right to look for a husband in a march. You got a right to look for a wife in a march. You got a right to do that as well as march. I just want to let you know I'm not impressed. And I want you to know that God is not impressed. And I want you to know that history is not impressed. And I know that you don't know history. Many of you are too young to even realize the time of which I now speak regarding the change that Obama talked about. And it is if now that you're raising the issue of change with Black Lives Matter, as if it's heard for the very first time. And nobody's ever heard that before. Oh, this is something new under the sun. Change! But no! Obama called for change. It's pathetic. 8 years in the presidency, and he did one, I suppose, significant thing. He did one noted thing, and he did one extraordinary thing. And let me count them to you. The significant thing that I think that he did was that he elevated Al Sharpton to be the heir apparent of Dr. Martin Luther King, knowing that he couldn't be that. Yeah, he elevated Al CI7, snitch, heroin dealer, still on the snitch report for the FBI against drugs being dealt by the Italians here in New York City. Al Tawana Brawley Sharpton, Obama elevated him to be the heir apparent of Dr. Martin Luther King. So you hit that. You call for someone to speak to the civil rights issue. It's Al Sharpton. He's now the man that's in charge. Went past Jesse and went past the others as well. The noted thing that he did was that he was able to convince Wall Street that a mumbo-jumbo, absolutely confusing issue of health care could be passed through the Senate and the Congress, and that people will be under some impression that they got health care. But Harlem Hospital didn't get better. And I don't know if you got better health care, because I keep hearing people talk about the coronavirus is killing more black people than it's killing anybody else. But if we had significant health care, if Obamacare had been a significant program, then the health care auspices that they give at Rockefeller Center would be as good as that what they give up in the South Bronx on St. Anne's Avenue or Jacoby Hospital. No, that was no health care program. It was a job. It was a bamboozled job. Wall Street is not about to pay for the health care of black people. Do you understand that? Wall Street was not about to ditch out trillions of dollars to make sure that every black person that walks in America has got full and adequate Cadillac health care. No, you got to be out your mind if you think Wall Street is going to do that. So they put that Obama out there in front to bamboozle you as if you're getting health care. But I can guarantee you, you're going to go in the waiting room or you're going to apply, and you ain't gonna get what everybody else got. You're gonna die with your health care program. So that was another thing that he did. And the extraordinary thing he did was he was able to convince the Supreme Court with the appointing of two liberal female judges to pass a law against the word of God, same-sex marriage, that man can marry man and woman can marry woman. And this is also supported very strongly by the Jews and by Wall Street, that you would be able to bring man and man. Because here, let me tell you something. Can I tell you something about economics? Let me drop this one on you. You see that what was effectively happening with men not being married in terms of their work status and structure was not as well in terms of their performance, that a married man was more stable than an unmarried man. If he was hired by a major corporation, we spent several $1,000s training him for that position, but if he wasn't married, he might walk off the job. Getting married, he's more stable, and your investment in him is more secure. So therefore, Wall Street benefited from the same-sex marriage. Getting all these young people married, Wall Street benefits, the government benefits, society benefits. And so that was the extraordinary. But after that, he did nothing. I'm going to ask the engineer if he'll bring up a clip posted up by one of the major news networks where they actually a year ago lamented, and you won't believe me because you think I'm not credible, or that I'm a hater, or that I'm a racist, or that I'm a whatever. You're not going to believe me. But I'm going to let you listen to a major global news network do an interview and point out that Obama didn't do a damn thing, and people in Chicago and the world are waking up to it. But even now, people are trying to cover up the fact that Obama did nothing for the black man. He's the biggest disappointment that we've ever had in presidential history. So, Mr. Engineer, if you could please find that clip and let it rip for just a moment, if you will, please, sir.
But tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, change has come to America.
Change? Really? Look at that crowd, everybody!
Victory speech
Look
from
at that
Chicago's
crowd.
Grant Park, President
ain't got
Obama
nothing
is
like that
returning
today.
to his
Look at that
hometown.
crowd. Black Lives Matter ain't got nothing like
But
that.
some are giving him a cold welcome, saying his promise of hope and change never came.
We're not going to be saying thank you for the 8 years of work that he didn't do in the black communities.
Activist and former Obama supporter Jamal Green referring to the surge in violence in Chicago. Last year marked its deadliest year in nearly 2 decades, with 762 people murdered, nearly 4,000 people killed on the streets of Chicago during Obama's 8 years in the White House. One flashpoint, the 2014 deadly shooting of black teenager Laquan McDonald by police, which launched the largest investigation of a police department by the U.S. Department of Justice.
I would be embarrassed as the president to know that I've done really not much for the people that put me there.
I said in Grant Park when I was declared the winner of the presidency that this wasn't a task for 1 year or 1 term or even 1 president.
Oh, he's copping out now. What a cop out! What a cop out!
Some of his faithful supporters don't believe it's fair to blame the president for the city's violence.
Obama tried his best. He's only the president. He's not a dictator. He can't do what he want to do.
He was the president, man.
No better. We had a black president who served 2 terms, and with everything that he did for us, it's just a blessing.
Really?
It's a blessing.
Really?
I can't send the Marines in to Chicago, but it is heartbreaking. Chicago is the one big city where you've seen a big spike in the murder rate.
Which is why Jamal Green wishes the president would have done more.
He's neglected to talk about the starving communities. He's neglected to talk about the violence. He's neglected to talk about the lack of investment into urban communities. He's neglected to talk about police brutality, issues that are plaguing the black communities all over the country. And so we do feel neglected, and we felt like he could do more, and he could have possibly saved some lives.
Now, I talked to some people here in Chicago who believe that perhaps President Obama can do more for his hometown as a former president. They say that he's already doing more. For example, bringing the presidential library to the South Side, which will pump money and also jobs to that area. And Aaron, other people I talked to say they're just hoping for the president to speak bluntly about some of the issues plaguing the black community.
You know, Black Lives Matter. I'd like to rephrase that, because nearly 4,000 young people in Chicago lost their lives during the 8 years of Obama. He didn't march. Nobody marched. And now all of a sudden there's this massive marching over George Floyd, because his life only matters because he was killed by a white man. But if you get killed by a black man, your life ain't worth doo-doo. No, this, I'd like to call Black Lives Matter, I label them as blaspheming lying monkeys is who they are. What? And by the way, did y'all see that crowd out there in Grant Park? Did y'all see how Black Lives Matter, this George Floyd has not been able to produce a crowd, and that was just one of the many crowds of people. So I'm not impressed with what I see going on in the street, and it definitely ain't gonna bring about no change. But I'm glad that at least there are a few people like Brother Jamal Green who recognize Obama was a failure. But he was a failure. He was a failure that he didn't have to be. He didn't have to be a failure because he had the office of the presidency. And those are power levers that he could have pulled that could have helped the black man. But that was never his intent. I never heard Obama say anything, and I listened well, that ever seemed like he had any concern to help anybody that was black. But Wall Street, that's a different story. Yeah, it is absolutely a scream. So I was right years ago. And so there's some redemption, and I'm not here, as I said, to go a minute ago to bury Obama. That's not why I'm here. I'm here maybe to resurrect some people. I was right. And for the past 13 years, I've been hated as a man that ain't black, that doesn't love the black people, that I didn't support the first black president. I was right. I was not only was I right that he wasn't going to do anything for black folk, but I was right spiritually about the fact nothing was going to come of him, and things were only going to get worse because of him, not as a result of him, but because of him. I was right. I don't know if I'm here to try to resurrect myself. As Mark Anthony said, that we didn't come to bury Caesar, we came to praise him. In that great speech of the eulogy that Mark Anthony gave at the death of Julius Caesar. But I was right. He was not the first black president. If you consider what accomplishments he was able to level in the past 8 years as a black president, then you need to go and come again. Then you think less about black people than I do. I would think that there would have been at least some, I've been recently teaching about the efficacy and the works of the likes of Booker T. Washington, who never was president. He was just a school teacher, principal, an orator. But the work that he did, what he did, and Marcus Garvey, I don't know if you know if he had an 8th grade education, he wasn't president, but gave birth to the Harlem Renaissance, gave birth to some of the greatest periods in Harlem as a community economic structure that the world has ever seen for black people. If he'd even done what Marcus Garvey, half of what Marcus Garvey did, then we could at least give him some juice. But no. And the other thing is that I think it's important that that he should not have denied his Kenyan heritage, and maybe that would have saved him. I believe there's something about the deposit. I believe that Obama could have said clearly that, listen, I was born in Kenya. But I think that under the McCain Act, McCain born down in Panama Bay on the U.S. military soil in Panama, and as a result of that, when he ran for senator out in Arizona, Barry Goldwater and others raised the issue that he was not American born because his father was a military man. He was born in a military base in Panama, so he wasn't born on American soil. But because he was born to American parents, that made John McCain a citizen. I think Obama should have taken that. I think Obama, were it me, I would have taken that route. I would have said, wait a minute, I was born in Kenya, but I was born of American parents in Kenya. And the Constitution would have covered him on that one. But more than that, it would have connected Kenya. It would have connected his heritage. You ever notice how much I talk about North Carolina? It ain't nothing, a little old Bodunk town with one stoplight. I do declare before God, maybe it's got 2 stoplights. I don't know, let me take that back. Only one. But you know how I always talk, it's my heritage. It's where I come from. It's who I am. It's who my forefathers were. It's where I drank my first water and ate my first bread in North Carolina. And notice how much I talk about prison. You would think, Pastor, why don't you stop talking about, everybody know you've been to prison, so what? No, it's my heritage. I can't deny who I am. Why did Obama deny who he was? I believe that he could have just stood up in Philadelphia and really given a speech on race, but said, first of all, I'm not going to deny Africa. Africa's been denied too long. The white established order has been able to set the parameters of the raising of the nations of Africa. And if I deny the fact that I was born on African soil, I deny Kenya and I deny Africa. I push it to the side as not worthy. No, I'm not going to deny my heritage. Now, y'all can reject me. You don't have to vote for me as president. You can reject me if you choose. But I'm not going to deny the fact that I was born in Kenya. I'm Kenyan. I got Kenyan blood. My grandmama birthed me. She was the one that gave birth to me. What's the name of that person that did? Midwife. She gave birth. I know I'm not going to deny. I'm not going to deny that the first hands that touched me were the hands of my grandmother as a midwife. I'm not going to say I was born in a phony hospital in Honolulu just to be the president. No, my heritage and my integrity is greater than the American citizenship. I'm a man of the world. I'm the law. Well, he couldn't say that. My integrity is greater than my American citizenship. My heritage, born in Kenya. He didn't say that. He denied it up and down Main Street. You know why? Because it didn't matter to him. He didn't give a damn about Kenya or his grandmama for that matter. So I think it's important. So we see all this marching going on in the street. Look at them. And they're only out there because the cameras out there. Take them cameras and see, by the way, CNN and MSC going to keep them cameras out there and keep them people marching as long as they can, because they know it is driving Tribulation Trump up a tree to see all that marching going on. And as long as those cameras out there, those people are going to stay. They're going to keep on marching. They'll, I suppose, decide to dissolve shortly, soon enough. But Obama was a sellout. So, I mean, remember our first black president, we black people got to stick together. And they left me. They called me a false prophet, they said. And they sent arrows directly to my heart and knives to my back, so many so that there was the knives that were going into my back and the arrows into my heart over this Obama issue and his blackness and whether I was black or not. There were so many arrows that the arrows started hitting the arrows, and I kept standing. And so it is with some relief that I'm able to point out I was right. I was stomped down right. Not only was I right, but I was righteous. I was righteous! I was righteous! I'm saying that because there's a little bit of pain still in me. I don't want to let anybody think, well, we got to him. We really hurt him. We really got to him. It sounded like he's in pain. We got to him. We talked about him, said it was a false prophet, and said it wasn't a black man. I hear pain coming out. And so no! Don't go down that far. I mean, it's just justice. I'm a Johnny Cochran. If the glove don't fit, you must have quit. I would think that somehow or another that, I'm the Lord's servant. But no, I was right. That's one other thing, and I promise not to inflict myself upon you any further. That is this, is that talking about change? Oh, no. I told you the one thing that Obama did that was significant was he appointed Al Shady, CI7 snitch, drug dealing Sharpton, no reading the teleprompter Sharpton as the heir apparent of Dr. King. I watched the funeral of George Floyd and Al Sharpton delivering his eulogies. And everybody talking about he's our man for the hour. Call him when you got trouble. But you know, Al don't want change either. That's all of a sudden, by some miracle, that young black men stopped getting shot down in the streets. There's a year when goes by, there's nobody dead, there's been no funerals. Al didn't get any money. Al is out of a damn job. Al don't want you to kill some more of them, Al says in private, to pay for that $13,000 a month apartment he has down on 72nd Street. No, and Ben Crump too. No, when the city of Minneapolis settles with the George Floyd family for the millions of dollars that they're going to get, Ben Crump going to get 25% of that. That's right. Ben Crump going to get millions, and Al going to get millions too. No, they don't want this to heal. Hell no. They don't want change. They pray that a cop shoot somebody, we'll give him time to bury George Floyd and get that out the way. Then shoot another one. Shoot another one, Al says. Ben Crump says, shoot another one. Yeah, because that's where they earn their living. You know, it's like the Iceman. You're selling ice and they built refrigerators. Now, if you build a program economically, spiritually, where the black man is no longer buying ice, but he's got a refrigerator, Crump and Sharpton and all that race-baiting crowd lose their jobs, and they'll be applying for unemployment in a way. So it's important that we understand that don't get carried away by all this marching in the street. First of all, most of these people don't even know anything about anything. They were too young to know who Obama was. But one of the things I said about Obama today, he probably feels like committing suicide because he realized that he failed. You know, if he had succeeded, they wouldn't be in the streets. If he had succeeded, they wouldn't be using the mantra of change. If he had succeeded, if he had done what he promised to do in all those campaign speeches, this event would be a non-starter. We wouldn't know about it. There'd be nothing about it. We just said America would be one place where the black man has finally reached a utopian aspect of equality. Obama didn't do that. Didn't do anything like it. Didn't do anything like it. The thing that we got to do now is look at all these people who keep promoting him as if somehow or another he accomplished something. He accomplished nothing. What did he do? What did he do? What did he do for you? What did he do? What did he do? Same-sex marriage? All right. All right. Al Sharpton, the heir apparent of Martin Luther King? All right. What did he do? Food stamps? Is that what he did? No, there's nothing in his repertoire of things that he did. And you definitely don't have health care. So our plight, if you will, allow me to unite with the Hamite brothers who are calling themselves African American at the moment. And pain is nothing more than an opportunity for the pinch-nosed Negroes. Here it is. You can look at it this way. The average Negro on the street, and it really doesn't matter if he's, whether he's on welfare, whether he's got a home, or whether he lives in the homelessness, or if he's not a part of the Ivy League pinch-nosed Negro class, he's a customer for the pinch-nosed Negro. What do you mean by that? Let me tell you what I mean by that. I just explained it to you a few moments ago. You see, the house Negro, the pinch-nosed Negroes, the Cornel West, Eddie Glauds of the world, the Sharptons of the world, the Ben Crumps of the world, the Ben Jealous of the world, the Liz Gunderson of the world, all that crowd, all of them pinch-nosed Negroes, that the poor suffering Negro, and even some of the bourgeoisie Negroes, that we're their clients. They represent us. Oh, yeah. Not only Al Sharpton has found out how to shake this tree, but, Eddie Glauds learned how to shake it too. Cornel West. They go and represent it. Well, what are we going to do? Oh, look how awful that was. That was the ugliest thing I've ever seen in all my life. The way that police officer choked that man out there. That was murder, no doubt about it. What we gonna do as white people, we got to do something. They killed Breonna Taylor right there in her bedroom, post no knock, police goes in and shoots the woman. What we gonna do? Ahmaud Arbery jogging down the street, shot by two men in a shotgun who look like typical rednecks. I swear to God, just could convict them on the way they look. What we gonna do? Where we gonna stop? It's the year 2020. And we're 150 to nearly 200 years post-slavery, and still the black man is at the bottom. He's at the bottom of the totem pole. He's lower than the Hispanics. He's lower than the Asians. He's lower than the Chinese. He has less unemployment. He dies earlier. He fills up the jails. What we gonna do to raise the black man? It's been 170 years since slavery. What we gonna do, we white people? What we good white people? What we good-hearted, no racist bone in my body. Some of my best friends are black. What we gonna do to help the black man? Call Cornel West. Oh, well, he's a Negro. Call Eddie Glaude. Oh, call Ben Jealous. Oh, call him and call Liz Gunderson here. Call them in, and y'all please tell us what to do. Y'all please, because we want to stop the suffering. It's been too many years that the black man is suffering. What we going to do? Can y'all, Liz Gunderson, can you tell me what to do? Cornel West, and by the way, I'm calling their name, but there are a whole bunch of others. There's a whole list of them. House Negroes. I call them pensioners, those Negroes. So they get on the camera, the television, here they go, they talk just like the white man. And the white people are very comfortable with them. Don Lemon. They're very comfortable with them because they know they're not going to say anything. They ain't going to say anything. It sounds like truth. And the truth that they're going to tell is that the black man is his own problem. He needs to check himself out. He needs to look at, this is a blaspheming lying monkeys called Black Lives Matter. They didn't march for that young girl that was shot down in the park. These Black Lives Matter monkeys, they didn't march for that young girl that was shot down in her mama's backseat car seat. They didn't march for the 4,000 young black men that were shot down, 30 and 40 and 50 of them on the weekend in Chicago. They didn't hold one damn march. What a lie. What a lie. You're blaspheming lying monkeys. You're not Black Lives Matter. What a lie. Now you got white people talking about Black Lives Matter. I've never seen anything like it. Black Lives Matter don't even matter to black people. Why should they matter to police officers? And that's the truth. You ain't gonna hear nobody say nothing like that. No, not these house Negroes. We're their clients. Well, I'm not. But, they represent you. That's what they call. And some of the politicians as well. They call them. I think that it's important that we understand something about the psyche of the pensioners Negro. He is living good. He's got a seat at Harvard, or he is a teacher and a professor at Princeton, or Michael Eric Dyson. He's got a seat at Georgetown. These boys are living good, living around white people. I doubt they're becoming in contact with black people, except a couple of black students every night. They're living good. $250,000 a year salary, housing allowances. These boys are living good. That whole black people keep doing bad, so they'll keep being called. It's like the doctor makes everybody well, and he ain't gonna have no patience. Somebody got to get sick somewhere, So these boys, and Michael Eric Dyson, I haven't named him, but he's another one. Yes. We're their clients. Y'all are, not me. And then the other thing is that Obama has done, he's made same-sex marriage the order of the day. So right now, out on our announcement board, I've got this statement out there: if Malcolm, Mandela, and Martin, the 3 M's, were alive today, these LGBTQ people will call them hate preachers. That's right. They would. They say Malcolm is a hate preacher, because there ain't no way in hell Malcolm X is going to ever stand and watch two Muslim men marry one another. They ain't gonna, I don't care whatever else happens. That ain't going to happen. No, sir. And Nelson Mandela, You better not talk about, they will actually arrest you and kill you in most African nations. If you even talk about, you get caught kissing another man, that's a death sentence. Mandela was a Zulu. No, There ain't no way the Zulus would allow Nelson Mandela to change the Congress of South Africa into same-sex marriages or support anybody that brings it. No, he wouldn't do it either. Martin King wrote an article in 1964 and then touted Ebony magazine that homosexuality was a psychological disorder. And not just that. So all of these young people who don't know Malcolm, they don't know Mandela, they don't know Martin. These people in the street, they heard about them, they don't know them. They've read about them and they've exalted them. But if Martin, Mandela, and Malcolm had an opportunity to speak today, they would condemn this blasphemous man with me. They'd condemn it in the strongest terms. And they'd be running for cover, all these little white girls, these little white boys, these little sissy white black boys, and they'd be running, these black girls sucking on another woman's titties. They'd be running for cover for Malcolm. They'd be running for cover for Mandela. They'd be running for cover from three of the men that many of you in historically account as some of the greatest leaders of the Negro people. They'd condemn you. They would. They're not here, but I am. And I think there's one other thing that we need to be mindful of as well, that Black Lives Matter. Some of y'all don't remember, and I don't know. Obviously, today I was trying to figure out, where'd y'all go to school, most of y'all? Because you don't seem like you have very much of an education. You didn't have to live in this period, but my God, who educated y'all? Because, Dr. King ousted Rap Brown. Burn, baby, burn. Remember Rap? Remember that? You see the Black Lives Matter out there now. Hell, you ain't the first one that did that. Burn, baby, burn. Rap Brown, dark sunglasses and a beret on. Burn, baby, burn. And then here comes Stokely Carmichael. They were partners in crime. Black power, Ngawa. That clenched fist, that comes from 50, 60 years ago. Y'all out there in the street now think you're something. It's a damn joke. But Martin King said, no, we ain't gonna burn, baby, burn. They tried to get Carmichael, Stokely Carmichael, to unite his SNAP movement, a SNCC movement, with Dr. King. And King said, no, it's going to be nonviolent. And I'm not a nonviolent man myself. I don't care what you say. I believe in an eye for an eye. And I believe if you take my eye, I'm going to take your eye and your ear. But that to me. But King was nonviolent. And Rap Brown was burn, baby. Rap Brown was the first one who chanted, burn the neighborhood down. Burn it down. Burn, baby, burn. It's powerful. White folk, Dick Cavett, Ed Sullivan, they didn't know what the hell to do with these boys. Black power! That clenched fist, then they put a black glove on it. And then a whole lot of them two of them got up. Colin Kaepernick, maybe you ought to add that black power thing to him, but he and Rap Brown, then 4 or 5 of them did it. Next thing you know, you got a group called the damn Black Panthers. Oh my God. Lord have mercy. A panther. You know what a panther is? I grew up in Panthers Ford, North Carolina. Panthers are particularly acute to North Carolina wildlife. Michael Jordan played for the North Carolina Panthers at Duke University. The Panthers, they're black, they're sleek, they're not as big as lions. They're a little smaller, but they're more agile, they're faster, and they're quick. And because they're always a jet black. You've never seen a white panther. You've never seen a black panther with one white hair on them. These panthers, they're still. Cats have beautiful moves anyway. If you ever see a cat move, they are extraordinary. And a panther, they can pause so that they just disappear until the prey thinks they're gone. And then they pounce. And there's a group that rose up in America, in Chicago, Obama's territory, called the Black Panthers. And that was a vicious name, more vicious. I'd rather deal with lions in Africa and tigers in India than deal with a black panther. But I grew up with them in North Carolina. In fact, I grew up in a town that these white boys named Panthers Ford, North Carolina. And because they were so vicious, the Duke University named their basketball team the North Carolina Panthers. But King rejected all of that. And he would reject Black Lives Matter or blaspheming lying monkeys today. He would reject them. Ain't no doubt about it. Nah, he wouldn't. And he would reject Beyonce. Can you imagine Malcolm approving of Beyonce, shaking her booty and grabbing her twat? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine Malcolm approving that? Or Mandela approving that and JC fanning it like it's on fire? Hey boys, my wife's stuff is burning up. Fanning that stuff for her. She got her legs gapped over, he fanning it. Can you imagine Malcolm and Mandela and Martin approving of that to where you people have sank as a people, calling yourselves black? Sick. You ought to be put in jail for the rest of your lives. Never allowed to go out on your woman and you're up there fanning with a fan over her, you know what. The whole world can see what you got it gap wide open and you fanning it. What level of debauchery have you people fallen? What hole have y'all fallen into? Now you want to get out in the street and march. Talking about your life is important. Never seen anything like y'all. This LGBT stuff is the sickest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's sick. It's sick. You are a social piranha. You are a despicable person. These LGBTQ freaks. You're hated by God. Fred Phelps was right. Yes, he was. He used to put those signs out there about who God hates. He was right out there in Indiana. No, it is a despicable behavior, lifestyle. And Obama has lifted it up out of the toilet and put a crown on it and set it in the king's chair and said, all of us go out and worship except me. I don't go down that way. I'm going to through with y'all. But I have to tell you that, because you say, well, Pastor Manny, you're railing off all these truths. What's your answer? I'm glad you asked. What's your remedy? I'm so glad you asked. I don't know if you're going to listen, but I'm glad you asked. So I was right. Imagine this. Imagine this, right? Change is what we can believe in. Yes, we can. 250,000 Germans who didn't even speak English came to see Obama in Dusseldorf. In Grant Park on the night of his winning the election, all of Chicago was filled. You ain't never seen no crowds like that before. You've never seen any people, crowds like that. 20,000 with Oprah Winfrey. He was just getting started. 20,000 down in Miami. And everywhere he went, crowds. Tribulation Trump was a big jealous because he had the biggest inaugural crowd. He was larger than Farrakhan's Million Man March, Obama's inauguration day crowd. Y'all people in the marching street now, I'm not impressed. You got to go and come again. That little crowd y'all got out there, I'm not impressed with that. But I want you to think about something for just a second. And this might be a bit redemptive for some of you and a bit of a resurrection for me, and I'll take that. Imagine this, that I had the courage to stand over against 40 million black people. I had the courage to stand with my chin up and my shoulders back. But not just that, to stand against all of Africa. And all the kings and leaders in Africa were calling me a traitor and calling Obama the black emperor. I had the courage to stand against the Caribbean. They called Obama the black emperor. And me alone here in Harlem all by myself. But I stood. And then millions upon millions of Japheth people, millions of them. Change is going to come for the black people because they got a black president. And I stood up. I held my head up. I held my head up high. I kept my shoulders back. Imagine the courage it takes when you've got the weight of the world coming down, and everybody in the world is against you. Imagine. And all you got to do is just agree with the world, and everything's hunky-dory. But I stood. And when he was elected and went on, and it seemed to have gotten worse, and people deserted, I stood. I don't know many people who've been there. I know Toussaint Louverture has been there. I'll say this. I would say that Muhammad Ali was there, but Muhammad Ali had a whole lot of people with him. I didn't have nobody with me. Can you imagine what it was like for me to get up in the mornings and then go to bed at night, or get out on the street, go on to get my car, and I look at the black people walk by? Can you imagine? Millions of people, the first black president, the emperor, the black messiah, and and their opinions, their aspirations are all against me. They have one wish, is that I would die. But I stood. I'm trying to draw you in. I know it's a bit dramatic, but I mean to emphasize the point. I want you to know what I've gone through over the past 13 years. I want you to hear me. I want you to feel my pain. I want you to let you know I ain't no damn body's boy. If I could stand that, I stood up against that. I want you to know that. I don't know many men that could, but I did. No, I did. And I'm going to keep on standing. I'm standing now because I'm the Lord's servant. That's why I stand. I don't stand with my own strength. I'm standing on the word of God. I stood because God spoke to me. That's why I stood. I didn't stand because I'm better than you. I stood because I'm the Lord's servant. But I don't want you to ever forget that. Next time you see me coming, whatever you may think about me, or whatever I might say, wherever you may go, or wherever you see, where you're digging in another man's butthole or not, and eating his feces and kissing it, whatever you may think about, understand something, it's going to be a long day in eternity before you can ever be the man that I am. You ever be the man? Ever! Stand the way I stood. And I'm still standing. I'm still standing. Yes, I am. So there's an answer. And I've got ATLAH. I'm standing and waiting on God's prophecy of ATLAH. Now, you'll have to tune in at another time if you want to hear more about that. But right now, I got to shut things down. I've reached the max of my time tonight. And I think we've made the point. I don't want to drown you with information about ATLAH, but it's a plan. It is a plan. But I can tell you this. Things are not going to get better because of this march in the street. The worst is yet to come. And let me close with this. I'm praying for you, the coronavirus. Don't let these freaky Japheth people running around here, and these tribulation Trump people running around here, walking around with no mask and going to the beach and, having and doing all that stuff as that going back to normal. Things are not normal. And they're not going to be normal health-wise for a long time. And I love for you to be around. But you fool around here and take that mask off, you're going to die. That disease is out there. It ain't going nowhere. It ain't going nowhere. I'm praying for you. In fact, I'm going to pray for you right now. I thank you all for taking the time to listen to me tonight. I didn't mean to, but time is winding up. I'm going to now ask all of us that are present to get on our knees and pray for a few moments. We call this time the period of hit the deck. That's what we're going to do. Wherever, if you're at home, if you can possibly get on your knees, don't just stand and pray. Don't sit and pray. Get out your wheelchair and pray. Everybody hit the deck. I'm going to get down here in just a moment. I'm going to pray, and then I'm going to come up and have some closing remarks. Thank y'all so very much. Let's pray, everybody. Let's pray. Don't leave me now. Don't shut down. Let's pray. You need to pray. MC Hammer said, you need to pray just to make it through the day.
Let's get close to the Lord. Oh, yeah. Let's get close to the Lord. Oh, yeah. Little thing like easy, lose our way, feeling empty and confused. Well, my friend, just one thing to do. Let's get close to the Lord. Oh, yeah. Let's get close to the Lord. Oh, yeah. Smile with laughter, but inside, still good night.
Welcome, everyone, to this week's edition of the Current Events class. I am Sabbath Rachel Lafleur, and I have with me today some of our middle school students. There's a lot for us to talk about, so I'd like to introduce them and get started right away. I have Mariah James, who is a sixth grader in Great Tomorrow's Middle School. I have Charles Adams, who is an eighth grader. Charles is actually graduating in a couple of weeks, going to ATLAH High School. I have Sheba Abate, who is a seventh grader in Great Tomorrow's Middle School. I have Twain McIntosh, who is also a seventh grader in Great Tomorrow's Middle School. And I have Zamir Ward, who is a seventh grader as well in Great Tomorrow's Middle School. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for sharing with me today. How is everyone?
Good.
Okay, great. It's great to see you all. I haven't seen you all in a couple of weeks, and in the span of a couple of weeks, there's a lot that has taken place, and I'm sure that you all are aware of this. In the midst of the coronavirus, as we are still in, and we're going to talk about some of the things that has taken place since I last spoke to you, is the George Floyd murder. And I spoke to some of our high school and college students about this last week. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, but on a different scale today. So I want to start off by asking you, how have all of you been doing? How has everyone been doing? We're going into our third month of being home from school. How is everyone coping? Has it been easier for you, or has it been challenging for you? Sheba, how's it been for you?
Pretty challenging because we don't get to see our teachers very often on the Zoom calls, so I guess it makes you more independent, but it's also very different from how it used to be.
And okay, what about you, Twain? How has it been for you?
It kind of be easy and challenging both. Yes, ma'am.
It's been easy and challenging, you said?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And Charles, what about you? How's it been for you?
It's been challenging because I'm used to being at school more often, and I feel better when I'm at school and doing my work. I feel more comfortable.
Okay, you feel more comfortable. Zamir, how have you been?
It's been challenging because I'm, like what Charles said, I'm used to being inside the classroom with your teachers and your other classmates doing your work. And because of the coronavirus lockdown, we have to be inside and just taking it slowly, day at a time.
Okay. And Mariah, what about you?
I think that it's been easier because I could focus better on my work.
Okay, all right. So it's been easier for you. Well, it seems like besides Mariah, for most of you, it's been challenging for you. And going into this for going on about 3 months now, next week will make 3 months, I believe, since we've been out of school. It just seems like you all haven't gotten used to just being home. And I'm sure that you'd rather be in school, right? Most of you would rather be in school, right?
Yes,
I'm kind of feeling this, computer life, you guys.
Really? So you're starting to get used to the computer life?
Yeah.
But if you could have a choice, would you rather be in school in person?
Yeah, I think I would be in school in person.
Okay, all right. So I want to go into talk about, as you all know, as you all are keeping abreast of what's going on in the news, phase one happened or started yesterday in New York City, where New York City opened up in phase one. And what that basically means is that there are some businesses as of yesterday that can now continue to function as they used. I shouldn't say as they used to, because a lot of things has changed, and we're going to talk about that as well. And so Governor Cuomo is saying that in about a couple of weeks, if things continue to be low, as far as deaths are concerned, and the number of people being infected with coronavirus, that phase two will then take place, which means more businesses will begin to open up in New York City specifically. So let me ask you all this question in light of the reopening of New York City. People are going to be running out quickly to resume their life as prior to having the coronavirus. How do you think that you will respond when New York City is to open up fully? And again, we don't know when that's going to take place. We have to see day by day as far as Governor Cuomo is concerned. How do you think you're going to respond to that? Do you think that you're going to go back to doing the things that you normally used to do? Charles?
I would take caution because we still don't know if the virus is gone, so it could still spread, and these people aren't really taking caution. They're just gonna run out and do whatever because they're immune to these type of stuff.
Okay, so you're going to be a little cautious before you. Okay, good. Zamir, what about you?
I would be very careful with doing things when New York reopens, like taking public transportation. Like, I'm going to still be wearing my mask and gloves and my hand sanitizer, because even when it does reopen, there's still a chance that you could still catch the coronavirus. So you always want to be prepared.
Right. G2, Sheba?
Honestly, I'm a very conscious person myself, but I don't blame, for all the stores to reopen, because we have to live our life. But I don't think I would even go out shopping until the numbers drop a maximum point. So yeah.
Okay. And what about you, Twain?
Ma'am, I will still wear my mask and sanitizer and gloves, ma'am, because I'm still not going to trust anybody, ma'am.
Okay. And Mariah, what about you?
I would be very careful. I would still not want to be close to people, and obviously I'll take the right precautions to keep myself safe.
Okay, so all of you are saying that you would be more cautious before you go out, and that's absolutely the wisest thing to do. As you look at people now, and again, there are people who are wearing masks as they're supposed to, and then there are those who are not wearing masks. But as we talk about the reopening of the cities within the United States, the coronavirus has increased, right? As of today, and I looked at this right before we started our meeting, as of today, there is 1 million, or has been 1,938,823 cases of the coronavirus just in the United States. So over 1 million people has had still have the coronavirus, and 110,375 people have died as a result of coronavirus. And I'm sure that it's even higher than that because they haven't been able to count everyone who has died from the coronavirus. You know, sometimes they say it's from something else and so forth, but it's related to the coronavirus. So as you talk about being precautious, even when it does finally reopen, that's the wisest thing that you can do. Continuing to wear your masks, gloves, wash your hands, sanitize, and so forth is certainly a wise thing to do. But when we're talking about the coronavirus, and I'm sure you all have seen this, and we talk about how our lives has changed and what has been coined as the new normal. And we talk about businesses and so forth. Things will never be the same again, right? You all have read how hotels and other businesses will change as a result of the coronavirus. So you tell me what you have learned or what you have read as we're dealing with the coronavirus. Sheba, what do you know?
Every day in the morning we watch the news briefing on the governor and mayor. So I've been up to date on a lot of the news lately. So I wouldn't say I wasn't really worried, but I am because my mom's starting to go out now for one job, and so is my sister. So I just keep in touch with the news all the time to make sure they're gonna be safe, you know.
And as your mother and your sister are going out to work every day, are they taking the precautions as well?
Yeah.
I'm sure they are. So does it make you nervous because they have to go out every day?
It makes me very insecure because even though they're distancing, wearing masks and wearing hand sanitizer and gloves, it still makes me insecure because I don't know whether somehow they're still going to bring something with them. And it's not just for themselves, it's for everybody.
Wow. Charles, you have, the last time we spoke, you have people in your home who are going to work on a daily basis as well. After hearing Sheba, does it make you nervous or insecure, as Sheba stated, when you have family members who have to go out every day to work?
Well, it makes me nervous because they have to go out to work, and when they come in, we're not sure if they really have it. So we're not sure if we may catch it from that certain person. So we have to be very cautious, do social distancing.
Okay, so you're even at home, you're saying that you practice the social distancing because some of your family members have to go out and work every day.
Yes.
Okay. What about you, Zamir?
It makes me nervous too because my mom and my sister both go out to work too every day, and my sister, her job, she has to deal with people and has to be next to people a lot. So when she comes home, she makes sure that she takes the precautions to wash her hands, disinfect her clothes, hand sanitizer. And my mom works in the MTA, so she really has to be careful of what she touches in the train station.
Right. Mariah, your mother is working every day as well. What about you after hearing your classmates? Does it make you nervous at all that she has to go out every day?
Yeah, because she works at the hospital, so it is kind of nerve-wracking, but I always pray for her safety and stuff.
Yeah. Well, certainly prayer is definitely something that we all want to continue doing. We don't want to stop that. Twain, do you think that you can, as I stated earlier, we're going to be in the midst of the coronavirus for a while. We don't know when this is going to end. And even in September, when they're talking about reopening school, we're not sure whether we're going to fully open our school to the full capacity. just because we're in the midst of the coronavirus. And, you know, there are people who have the coronavirus and you have no idea that they have it. So as you spoke about earlier, being precautious and still wearing your mask and your gloves, do you think you can ever get used to living this way? I mean, our new normal, and this is to Twain. Do you think that this is too much for you to deal with, or you're getting used to the idea of this new change that we have to go through?
Ma'am, I think it's too much, ma'am, because it feels uncomfortable to be like in the house and not going outside, and let me feel nervous too, ma'am, when my family is going out to work, because it kind of feel away to see they're going out to work and the coronavirus, ma'am, so they could get it before us get it.
Okay. As young people living in this world today, dealing with the coronavirus, that's one thing we got to deal with. Now we're looking at the other things that we have to deal with. And you all have seen the protests. You all have seen the murder of George Floyd. You all have seen some of the things that we have been going through in dealing with that. I wanted to ask you, how do you cope with dealing with all of this? Because this is just the tip of, I mean, there's a lot more that's going to happen that we have not gone through as of yet. So how has it been for you all as young people, just dealing with the things that you have seen? Charles, how has it been for you?
It's been terrible because the police officer never really had to kill George Floyd. I think the quarantine is getting to everyone's head, so it's making them do crazy stuff.
Okay. Sheba, how has it been for you watching all of this as a young person?
Well, I mean, it has its ups and downs, but when this is over, at least you could like tell all the people that are younger than you when you get older that I went through this event.
That you've lived through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Zamir, what about you?
It's been terrifying because the fact that this is actually happening during the time that we are growing up, like we're going through history and we're going to have to live with this, is to me. And also that we haven't really been taking that much precaution into what are we doing with the cops and the protesting for George Floyd and his funeral. Everything's happening so fast.
Okay. Do you think that it's happening faster than you can deal with it? When you say it's happening too fast, is it just too much for you to deal with at this time?
Yes, because you have the coronavirus, the protests all around the world. The cops are being racist against the Black community. So you just have to take it in and pray that things will get better.
Okay. Mariah, what about you? Looking at all of this as a young girl, how has it been for you?
Well, it really has been crazy because, like, we all are going through the coronavirus. And then on top of that, we're here killing each other. You shouldn't be killing each other because we're all human. It doesn't matter what color you are. It really doesn't, because we all bleed the same color. So it's really unacceptable to have that cop kill George. It was really sad.
And Twain, looking at all of this from your perspective, between the coronavirus, between what happened to George Floyd and dealing with the protests and the looting and the riots, how's all of this been for you?
Ma'am, it's been bad, ma'am, because to see everyone is just dying like that, police is killing people, it's very bad to see that happen. It hurts your feelings, ma'am, because the coronavirus is just filling up their head with madness so they could kill people, but it's bad.
For you and Charles, who are from Jamaica, viewing all of this in America, coming from Jamaica, what does it make you think? Charles, what does it make you think?
It makes me think that what if when like the tourists, they're white, so when they come to Jamaica, what if we were to treat them the same way? The white people, what if we were to treat them the same way that when they visit us? So what if we were like to start killing them and stuff?
Okay.
How they would react to that?
All right. And do you speak to your family members back in Jamaica? Do either of you speak to any of your family members back in Jamaica?
Yes, ma'am.
And what are they saying about everything that's going on? Because I'm sure they are watching this just as the entire world is watching. Have you spoken to them about what's going on here in the United States?
Yes, ma'am.
And what have they said to you, Twain?
They say, ma'am, to keep safe and do not go into trouble, do not go into crowd, do not like go out of and places, ma'am. And they said to wash your hands and keep safe, ma'am, because they don't want me to catch the coronavirus.
Okay. And what's the level of coronavirus case in Jamaica? Are you aware, Charles? Do you know what it is? How it's like there?
No, it's not really as bad as up here.
Okay. Okay. So your family members in Jamaica are fine?
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's definitely great to hear. All right. I think I want to let's take a break, because when we come back from the break, I want to talk about some more things going on with you as we're dealing with what's going on in the world today. So let's take a quick break. Please, everyone watching, stay tuned. We'll be right back after this break.
I love the school. At the beginning, I had Zarek only, and it was hell for me to find a peaceful, productive, a good school. After Miss Grisby is a lady that does the after-school program, she told me several times to go to the school. And finally I went, and it's been a complete difference for Zarek because he experienced different schools. And the kids, the little ones, they were so used to go to pick up Zarek that everybody knew them before they were enrolled. So the school has been like a second family, like a family for the kids and for me, and they feel safe there.
Am I child of the King? I pledge to not be racist against any ethnicity. It doesn't matter what color you are. All that matters is that we are one nation and one for all. We stand for righteousness. When the world comes together as one, we will be a masterpiece that represents the glory of God. Let us all stand together until we die with righteousness and not wickedness. Amen. I am a child of the King, his servant at all times. I am strong. I am blessed. I am special because of the Lord. I am chosen by God, a member of his royal family. I will succeed in all my studies because the Lord is with me. Amen.
You guys know I love you, but let me tell you, it's been like a 360 because not only They've been in charter schools. We moved to North Carolina for a year, so they had to experience a whole different state. And when I came back, I put them back into the same charter school they were in just because it was easy and they had their information. But I was looking for a summer camp for them, and I found out through a parent that you guys have summer camp. So I've passed by a million times, but I had no idea you guys had the summer camp. And once they were enrolled in summer camp and I found out about the school, it was like easy peasy because the kids had such a great time. They always spoke so highly of everyone there. And they can't stop talking about all the good food that I could never have time to eat. But they're always talking about how, like, it's just like they felt it was an immediate, like, and immediately I knew that it was the right choice because their reactions, they had never said that about another school, you know. Wow. like other students, they've been in other, you know, charter schools and this, and you try to look at, you know, all the reviews and you try as a parent to make sure that they're happy. Obviously, that's our number one. So once they in summer camp, they were already ecstatic. I already knew it was going to be the right fit, and I am unbelievably grateful because I feel like I'm just like I lost my mom 2 years ago, and she was like not only she was the only person I trusted with my kids, but now I feel like the school is my like they said is my second family. Like I know when I drop them off that I don't have to worry about it at all.
Well, you know, they love it. They love going there. They don't have a problem. And coming from, like I said, I used to homeschool them. I actually gave them options. I said, do you want to go back to public school? Do you want to? And ATLAH came up and I said, do you want to give the school a try? They actually picked the school.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
They picked it. So, and then I said, okay, let's go. And I checked it on and I put them in and I haven't had any problems. They feel safe. They get along with everyone. They learn at their own pace, which is great. You know, they're not, pushed to key, if they, for instance, I know my sons, one of them has trouble with math. He doesn't pick algebra up as quick. So they work with him, and they work with him at his pace. So he feels confident now. And that's something that I felt that got torn down when they were in, originally in public school. That confidence that they're just because they need a little more time to learn a subject doesn't mean that they're dumb. You get
That's
what I'm
right.
saying?
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So definitely putting them in ATLAH has built their confidence.
All right, we are back from the break. And again, my name is Sabbath Rachel LaFleur. I have here today some of our students from Great Tomorrow's Middle School. And before the break, we were talking about how you all are coping and dealing with what's going on in the world. But I want to go to what's going on with the George Floyd murder, in that Black Lives Matter, and you all know about this Black group, movement, whatever you want to call them. They, as well as others, are calling for the defunding of the police. okay? And I want to talk to you all about that. And I want to it from this standpoint. I want you all to think about your communities in which you live, wherever you live right now. We're all living in New York City, but I want you all to think about specifically your communities where you live right now. And think for a moment what it would be like if there was absolutely no police around, and what that would mean for you, what that would mean for your family, what that would mean for your community. And I want you to think about that for a second as we talk about the defunding of police, as they are calling for, some people are calling for the disbandment of police. How would that affect your community? What do you think if we had absolutely no police officers at all? Would that be a good thing? Would that be a bad thing? What do you think? Sheba, what do you think?
I mean, we need police officers, we really do, because without them, we'd just be having people robbing banks or just stealing things, assaulting people. So we really do need police officers. But I mean, there's no point in blaming it on every single police officer in the United States, because there's like that 1% of police officers that just try to, come from other people. They don't do their job, so it's not everybody.
Okay. Twain, what do you think?
It would affect me real bad, man. To see like no police is there to like protect you or save you from other stuff, man.
Okay. Mariah, what do you think?
I think that we do need police officers because if we don't, then the world will end up in ruin. But some police officers that are not doing what they're supposed to do, they just need to be fired.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Zamir?
I think that if we didn't have police officers in our community, that it would be hectic. There would be a lot of violence going around. So I think we do need police officers, but the police officers need to be doing their job correct and not just judging other human beings by their skin color.
Okay. And Charles?
I think it would be really bad without a police officer because everyone would just be walking around killing each other. And we humans would probably go extinct. But most of these police officers aren't really doing their job properly. They're just taking advantage.
So you think, so do you all agree with defunding of the police as they are calling for?
Yes and no.
Zamir, you said yes and no. Elaborate. What do you mean by that?
I think that the police officers that are doing their job and doing it correctly and want to protect and keep the safety of their community should get paid the money that they deserve. But if you are not doing what you are supposed to do as a police officer, you should not get the amount of money you should get paid because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. And you do a job so you can get money for the things that you are doing.
Okay.
And
all right. Go ahead. Are you done?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Sheba, what do you think about that? What Zamir just stated?
I mean, police officers, even though there are some that could be cool, most of them have families and stuff, so they might need that money to take care of their wives, children. But I mean, if you're a police officer and you just assault any type of person and the police department knows that you have that kind of reputation, then they could defund those type of people.
Okay, all right. And Mariah?
Well, I think that certain ones that are taking advantage of their job should have their paycheck shortened. But those who are really serving justice to the people, they shouldn't have their paycheck shortened.
What do you think our communities need the most of in terms of keeping law and order in our own communities, in terms of making sure things are the way they're supposed to be? Ultimately, what do you think I'm speaking specifically about the Black community, the Hamite community. What do you think the Hamite community needs overall, more so than even police officers? What would you say that they need most, Zamir?
I think what they need most is to actually, I think that the government and the president should listen to what the Black community has to say and how they feel about how they're being treated, so they can know, so the government can know how to go about it and how to make things peaceful between each other.
Okay. And I just heard your statement, but I'm asking you, what do you think the Black community needs most of? Where we wouldn't even need policemen to, because all of you just said you wouldn't want to live in your communities without police officers, that you need police officers, though all of them are not racist and so forth. What do you think our communities need the most of? Charles, what would you say we need the most of?
I think we need respect from the white people that are being racist. We need some proper respect, because you can't judge a person by the color of their skin.
Okay. Sheba, what would you say?
I think we just need more men in the home so they could take care of the younger men, so they won't, do all that stuff on the street.
Okay. So you're talking about having fathers in the homes. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Mariah, what would you say?
I think that we need Jesus. We just need to go to church and hear the word of God so we can have peace of mind.
Okay. And Twain, what would you say?
I agree with Charles, man. We need more respect and more God, Jesus. We need peace and more stop cursing the what Charles said, the white peoples are being racist and judging people by their colors, man. So we need more peace in our world. Okay. So we need more peace in our world.
Okay, we need more peace in our world. Well, I can tell you that peace is not going to come. Remember that we are in the midst of the tribulation. And so all of these things that we're witnessing, it has to take place. And things are going to happen even more so than we are viewing right now. As difficult as it may be, there are some things that are going to come that are going to be even more difficult in the days that we are in. But let me ask you all this question in regards to the statements that you just made. As we are looking at the George Floyd protest, it's been about 2 weeks now. Today is his funeral. Actually, his funeral is going on right now, and we're pre-recording this. This is going to air on Thursday. Today is Wednesday as we are recording this segment. And as I was watching the funeral, and some of you said to me before we got started, you were also watching the funeral as well. There are so many things when you look at this world, and I'm not sure if you all can fully see everything because you all are so young. But as we are watching all of this, and we're watching how they are painting the life of George Floyd and making him out to be this saint. I saw a picture with him with a halo and wings, and I don't want to really get into that because we know that he was not this saint. What I want to get into is the aspect of the Black community or the Hamite community. And the question I just asked you all, what do you think we need the most of? Because what is clear about the Black community including Black Lives Matter and all of these other organizations, including Al Sharpton and other things we're seeing, is how much so, just think about for a second, you all are 12 and 13 years old, right? Some of you, I think, Charles, you're 14 years old. Think about in the years that you have lived on this earth, being 12, being 13, being 14, you all have lived in Black communities all your lives. Think about what you have seen on a day-to-day basis in your communities, not even recognizing civil rights, not even knowing what happened years ago before you were born, how communities used to be in the Black community. With your own eyes as you witness it on a day-to-day basis, would you say that the Black communities are doing well? Would you say they're doing well, Mariah?
Well, I think that the way that the communities could be doing well is we should have fathers in the homes so they could protect their children.
And so are you saying that you see lack of fathers now in the community that you live?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And Zamir, what about you?
In the community that I live in, there's a lot of African Americans that are struggling to keep their roof over their heads. They have to support their families. So when this is all going on to the Black people and the cops are killing the men and women, how are they supposed to support their families and keep them safe?
Okay, so would you say that the communities, the way that you have witnessed it, and obviously you're saying that they've been struggling, you wouldn't say that it's been a good thing, right? You wouldn't say that you've seen, okay. Sheba, what about you?
Yeah, I've seen people struggle a lot, you know, in our communities, because I mean, some people here, I don't know what it is, but all they do, even like when they're going through stuff, they just take out their frustration on, you know, drugs, smoking, drinking beer every day. And I don't get it, but some people, they just do what they see others do, you know?
Okay, so a couple of you have said you see people struggling. Struggling doesn't necessarily have to mean a negative thing. Struggling can actually build character. Often it does once you learn and you experience. But let me ask you all this question based upon what you all have stated. So you've seen these things in your communities, and most of you, if not all of you, would say that it has not been good what you have been witnessing in the communities that you live in, right? So what things like what you have been seeing during this time with the George Floyd murder? And again, we know that it is a murder. We know that there are racist people out there. There's no denying that. Would you say that the things that you are seeing is going to help your community, is going to change your community for the better? Charles, do you think that what you are witnessing now is going to change your community for the better?
No.
And why do you say no?
Because this would probably tear like the Black community. It would tear us apart, and like most of us are really suffering from what's going on now in life.
Okay. Twain, what would you say?
I agree with what Charles said about the Black people tearing us apart with the community, man.
Okay. So you're saying that Black people are tearing us apart. I want you to be more specific. What do you mean when you say Black people are tearing us apart?
No, the white people are tearing us apart.
Oh, okay. You're saying the white people, okay. But in regard to the Black communities, Zamir, do you think that what is going on now is going to change what's happening or what's going on a day-to-day basis in your community?
No, because if the people in our community are struggling now and having a hard time with their life now, and then the white people come into play and even ruin it even more for them. How are our communities supposed to prosper and get and support each other? They're supposed to be one, and they just keep tearing us apart. Like,
okay, I hear what you all are saying, but let me ask you all this question, because as I'm listening to so many questions are going through my mind. Do you think that your communities or the Black communities in general are the way they are because of white people? Are we to blame white people for the reasons our communities are the way they are?
No,
But go ahead, you said no. Why?
because it's not even really necessarily them. It's ourselves. We should be more disciplined enough to take care of our own communities instead of putting the blame on other people.
Okay. And Mariah, what do you have to say to that?
I think no, because even the Black people, we're fighting each other, and we should come together so we could be stronger. So the JFF people, they don't have to look down on us.
I would like to.
Go ahead, Zamir.
During when the protests are happening, you see white people in the protest, protesting with other African Americans. Not all of the white people are like that, but some are. The people that are racist towards them are really the ones that have to do a lot with it. But I think that if they can just listen to us, like I said before, they will start to understand.
Okay. Twain, do you have anything to add to what Zamir just stated? No. Okay, Charles, what about you?
I think it's because of our action why we're in this situation right now.
What do you mean?
Because we're not disciplined. It's because we're not disciplined enough and we haven't trained ourselves right enough to do certain stuff for ourselves. So the white people look down on us.
Okay, so what then what is the answer? If you're saying that we're not disciplined and I mean, as far as the Black culture is concerned, that's absolutely right. If you're saying that the Black people or the Black communities are not doing what they have to do, what is the answer? How do you rise above that? How do you rise above that, Sheba?
Start taking care of not just your family, but others, helping out your community. And I don't think these protests are doing any good either. Maybe if you just be a racist police officer, you just go out your day, just stop doing bad things that will get you in trouble by the other police.
Okay. And what would you say the answer is, Mariah?
I think that we should be more disciplined and prove them wrong.
Okay. So what I'm hearing from most of you is that we should be disciplined. So obviously you all recognize the fact that the Black community as a whole lack discipline, which is something that Pastor has been preaching for years. The Black community as a whole, they don't have fathers in their home. They don't have fathers to teach young boys how to be men so that they would not have to go out in the world and deal with all of these things. And so as we look at the protests taking place, as we look at what Black Lives Matter is pushing forth and other activists are pushing forth, and you listen to Al Sharpton as he spoke at the various funerals that they had for George Floyd, and we talk about the communities in which you live, right? Because I want you all to look at it from the angle of what you see with your own eyes on a day-to-day basis. All of you agree that the protests are not going to change anything and it's not going to help your community, right? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is that what you're saying to me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so the question going to ATLAH, because I have to go to ATLAH as we're talking about this. What does ATLAH mean? Does it combat everything? Does it go against what you're saying? Does it go against being undisciplined, not doing the things that you have to do, not having fathers in the home? When we talk about the prophecy of ATLAH and what it means, what God has given us, what does that mean with what you see going on day-to-day basis in your community? Charles, let's start with you.
I think ATLAH is meant to spread the word of God throughout the world and like bring peace and, you know, bring peace and stuff, so everyone lose all those all those negative ways, and ATLAH is supposed to like make them more positive and spread the word of the Lord.
Okay. Samir, what about you? What do you think?
ATLAH, to me, I mean, ATLAH teaches you have to have discipline, and like what the Lord said about the fathers not having the home, ATLAH teaches the young men how to grow up to be righteous men. Does discipline. It teaches us what we should do for our community.
Okay. Sheba, what about you?
ATLAH teaches you to be righteous. It teaches you to have class. It teaches you to make sure when you get older, you make sure you serve your family, take care of them, not just your family, but your entire community.
Okay. And Twain?
ATLAH teaches you discipline and how to bring peace in the world. How to, like, when you grow up, you know what to do and what to do.
Okay. And Mariah?
ATLAH teaches you like how to be a world leader, how to be successful, and how to make yourself into somebody.
Okay. So all of you have answered that question, and you're absolutely right in that ATLAH is all about righteousness. First and foremost, it's about righteousness. It's about men taking care of their families. It's about discipline. It's about strength. It's about glorifying the Lord Jesus. And certainly, Mariah, as you just stated, it's about world leaders. So it's very important that you all remember all of those things as you are seeing what's going on in the world and not get caught up with the things that you are seeing. Because you all are so very young, it could be easy to get caught up into the things, and you see all of these people, thousands of people all around the world protesting, and Black Lives Matter and all of these other things going on. And it may tempt you into thinking that that's the right way to go. But remember that you all have been taught by pastor. Remember all of the teachings that you have heard on a day-to-day basis. Remember what your teachers have taught you. And anything that goes against the word of God, you should automatically know your alarm should go off right away. Wait, that's not what I heard. That's not the teaching that I got. That goes against the teaching that I was taught. That goes against what I believe, how I've been trained. Your alarm should automatically go off, and you know that that's the wrong way. And so I'm saying this to you because you all are so very young. And, you know, again, I was watching the funeral right before we started the show, and all of the things that I was seeing, and people were speaking in the name of the Lord, and people were singing in the name of the Lord and saying all of these things. And it's quite clear that they really don't know the Lord. But see, you can't tell them that. You can't tell them that they don't know the Lord, or you could tell them that they're not going to like it. But these are some very trying days. And so as young people, I want to encourage you all, just stick with Pastor Manning. Stick with Pastor Manning. No matter what you see on TV, no matter what you hear from people outside, be very, very careful. You know what you've been taught. You know what you've heard from the teachings. Be careful as you're watching all of these things take place. is what I want to say to you all, because it's very easy to get caught up into these things, especially as young people. If it sounds like, that sounds a little right, that sounds a little good, be very careful is what I want to say to you all. So let me ask you all this question. Let's move away from that, and let me ask you all this question. In regards to, again, what you've been taught, how you've been trained, how do you think you can change the world? And you probably need a few seconds to think about that, or a few minutes to think about that. But how do you think that you can contribute to really change the world in a way that it has never seen before? Zamir, what do you think?
I think that I can change the world by going to various communities, spreading peace, teaching the word of God, so they can know what is right and wrong. Just like what Pastor Manning's been teaching us, that to spread the word to other people, because if they don't know the word of God, they're gonna go down a dark path that a lot of people don't want to go.
Okay. Charles, what about you?
I agree with what Zamir said. We go around preaching the word of God and like teaching the young men and women like how to act in various ways, and like spread peace around the world and joy. Yeah.
Okay. Sheba?
I agree with everybody. In order to like get through these times, we need to be together, you know, have each other's backs, not go around tearing each other apart.
Okay. Mariah, what about you? How do you think you can contribute to this world in a way that it's never seen before?
I think the way that I can contribute is like by becoming like a politician, so I can like make various changes to communities. Then I can build up to states, then countries. So I work my way up to changing the world.
Okay, Twain, what about you?
I think how I can change the world to good work, bring peace, love, be kind to people, treat them right, don't do bad stuff to them, and always be kind to them.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for sharing with me today. I know that some of the things we discussed today can be quite, I don't want to say the word challenging, but it could be thought-provoking as we're dealing with the days that we are in the midst of. But again, I want to encourage you all just to continue to listen to the teachings of the Honorable James David Manning, follow his instructions, follow his directions, and all that he says as God is directing us, because God is speaking through him to us. I miss you all very much. I prefer going back to school. I don't know whether that's going to happen, but we'll see what happens and as we take each day that goes on. But remember, we're in the tribulation. Continue to pray. Continue to pray for the school, pray for the church, pray for yourselves and your family. And again, I just want to thank you all for sharing with us today. And I want to thank everyone out there for sharing with us as well in this week's edition of the Current Events class. I will be speaking to you all at another time. Stay safe, stay blessed, and peace out. Peace out, everyone.
Peace.
Peace.
It'll make a junkie say Jesus is Lord. I got a word in my mouth. I got a word in my mouth.
ATLAH.